It happens that one fine, quiet day, when the sun's rays were already breaking through the window, a deafening ringing of the telephone was heard. The girl picked up the phone, and it all started with an unexpected call. A voice said that the game had started. The main character realized that she had entered the world of a harem game. When she opened her eyes, she didn't even know when she had fallen asleep yesterday, and she wondered what that call was. The young lady does not understand what kind of room this is, because it is not hers, and she became interested in where she is now. On the bed next to her lay a guy who turns to her and calls her Highness and asks if she is awake yet. The lady looks at him in surprise and does not understand who he is. However, she thinks that he is incredibly handsome and realized that he is naked. The young man asks if she is cold and whether he should warm her up, and also asks why she needs a blanket. The main character screams and objects, saying that she doesn't need anything, and he asks Her Highness what's wrong with her, and also wonders if he did something wrong during the night. The young lady replies that it is not the case, but suddenly she saw a guy with red hair who was naked. The guy put on a robe but didn't tie it, and then asks if she wants to watch again. The main character objects and says that of course he showed her his goods here, and then says that she still asks for forgiveness. The man asks what kind of dirty games. This time the girl heard was surprised and told him to tie this robe. The guy with red hair smiled and said that this was nonsense and he was not going to participate in this farce any longer, and then said goodbye and left. At this time, the girl was surprised and told him to stand, and then said that he himself was delusional because she would like him to first explain what was going on here. The fair-haired guy turns to Her Highness, and at that time, the girl thought that she had forgotten about him and then told him to get dressed too. And at that time, she thought that it seemed to her that she was going to go a little crazy. The young man starts crying and says that he is guilty and that it is all because of him, and therefore asks to have mercy on him, and then starts begging. The little girl looked at him and realized that he was all wounded, and she wondered if he had been abused. However, she understood that now was not the time to worry, but she began to calm him down. The lady says that if he did nothing wrong, then there is nothing to ask for forgiveness for. The girl understands that she simply cannot leave the man to suffer, and then asks if he understood her. When the guy calmed down, the main character thought that she needed to figure it out. She remembers that at first, she thought that this room was a hotel, but in the room, it was clear that it was residential. And secondly, this guy and that recent man and their language clearly sound unfamiliar, but she doesn't understand why she knows it. The main character thought about something she didn't immediately understand, that this body wasn't hers, and thought that she was sleeping and it was just a dream. The girl read in the air that with a heavy heart, he admitted that he was forced to have relations with Princess Eldria, and he came to her to confess his guilt and offer to break up, forgive him, and save him from despair. The young lady doesn't understand what it is, and then asks the guy if he sees that thing in the air that looks like a system message. He is surprised and asks what a system message is, and the lady realized that this thing is invisible to him. The main character thought that, until he considered her completely ill, it would be better not to ask thoughtless questions, and then she tells him to forget about it. The little girl understands that, first of all, she needs to calm down and analyze everything, because 3 people were mentioned in that strange game notification. He who swore his love to her was forced to have relations with Princess Eldria. The lady with the red hair asks the guy who that was just now. He wonders if she's talking about Prince Edson Volota. Hearing this, the girl realized that the last prince was Volota, and then said that it couldn't be, and thought that it was just like in that notification, and she became interested in whether she really ended up in the game. The baby understands that the cursor moves by itself, and it turns out that the last prince is Volota, and he is congratulated on completing the quest because he received unforgettable feelings from Edson Volota. The lady read that an unknown error had been detected and realized that she had been reborn as a minor character in an autumn game that someone was currently playing. When the main character woke up, she realized that she had been reborn as a secondary character from the game, and when she saw the error, she thought that it could be because of her, and she couldn't even believe how something like this could happen in reality. The little girl thinks that there is 1 chance in 10,000 that this is true. However, she became interested in how she can return now, because she saw this game notification again. The last prince of Velad, for some unknown reason, he could not become a prisoner, and is now her unique ally. However, if she does not get rid of the hatred locked in the depths of his soul one day, he will leave her, and soon she will become the maid of the Princess of Eldria. In order to punish her, she will have to find her weak point and spread scandalous rumors about her, and show that she is an ally in his hatred. The girl realized that it looked like someone was continuing to play, and judging by the notifications, the owner of the body in which she was reborn soon, and then smiled and said that this was no longer a joke. A naked guy asks a lady if she's okay. The main character asks his name, and then explains that she thinks she's lost her memory. The guy says that Her Highness Princess Viat of the Empire is the only blood and flesh of His Majesty the Emperor, and she is 23 years old, and she is the next claimant to the throne. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and then asked how the Emperor's other children were, and also wondered if he shouldn't have a whole bunch of heirs. The young man reports that His Majesty the Emperor had many mistresses, but he did not wish to have offspring, and she was his only sister, so her position gradually grew, and many sought her favor. The lady asks, "What about Edson?" and then asks if she took him by force, seeing that the guy is a little embarrassed, and says that everything is fine, and let him talk. The young man reports that it wasn't that she refused men who came into her arms, but that she was simply more interested in those who resisted her. And Prince Edson Velod also refused His Highness's offer. 2 months after the capture of the Kingdom of Velod, she named him a military professor. And to prevent the fall of his country, he knelt down. The guy says that he heard that he particularly resisted the order to share her bed, and the reasons are unknown to her. Hearing this, the main character thought that at least she knew Edson fell in love with the main character of this game, but he had to leave her and sleep with the hated woman. The little girl understands that for game characters, such an incredible story is quite ordinary, but seeing it with her own eyes. The lady says that, judging by his words, she is not a very good princess, and then asks why he stays next to her. The young man reports that he is Her Highness's concubine, and that she did not abandon him and gave him shelter as an inconspicuous, worthless man. Hearing this, the main character thought that such a princess could not help but have a concubine, and judging by the way he begged for mercy, she treated him lousy. The princess turns to the Nadrik and asks if she can trust him. The guy says that of course he can, and she says that he will have to help her. A few days later, the maid says that Her Highness has been behaving strangely lately and has not left his room for several nights and is holding only one hostage. When the maid saw the mistress, she was surprised and asked if she had left her room. The princess said that they were not too noisy. The maid realized that she had done something wrong and then said that she had committed a mortal sin, and at that time, the main character became interested in whether she had said everything correctly and also wondered if Princess Eldria would have said so. The young lady understands that in these 3 days, she has learned a lot about this world of Odnadrik. And then, she looked at her clothes and understands that it is beautiful, but she would like to have some more comfortable dress, and she cannot get used to the clothes here. The girl does not understand whether she should get used to it, because the owner of this body is the Princess of the Empire and the sworn enemy of the main character, Eldria Viotta. The main character thinks that she is lucky because she got stuck in a relationship simulator, and even with the harem genre, and became a villain hated by everyone with a sad ending, and believes that now the upcoming future is only death. The little girl believes that she must survive at any cost and get rid of the role of the villain, and the only clue for her now is the system notifications of the main character. However, she would like to get the selection menu because it could become her most powerful weapon. The maid turns to Her Highness and asks if she needs anything, and at that time, the main character thought that she must do everything possible, and then orders Edson to be called immediately Volodya. The guy with red hair asks in surprise, "What's going on?" Edson Volod is the main character's man mentioned in the game notifications. The lady offers him to sit down first, and he says that this will be his last service. The lady asks if he says that next time he won't come, even if she calls, and at that time, she thought that this guy was interesting to the princess and considers him poor because he was abused, and now he stands there agitated, thinking that she will drag him into bed again for the sake of laughter. The guy claims that she did what she wanted and then asks if she is tired of herself. At this time, the princess realized that he was at his limit, and then said that she understood. And at this time, she thought that she should not worry, because now everything will be different. The notification gives a hint that Sen left her for a short time, and it is unknown when he will return. And she has options for an answer and wait. B. Find the princess. V. Go to Rovia, who is waiting in her room. The girl read the name Rovia and realized that this was the name of one of the princess's 3 concubines that Nadrika had spoken about. The lady thought that she was sorry, and if she had chosen the answer, she would have been able to recognize the face of the man who intended to finish her off. A system alert informs her that Rovia tried to kiss her. He laments that she has not come to him for a long time, and if she does not accept his feelings, his love for her may weaken. However, if she on the contrary drags out time, then Edson may return, and therefore she must make a wise decision to either accept the kiss or not accept the kiss to have a connection. At this time, the main character was surprised and looked at Edson and thought that it seemed that he alone would not be enough for her. And then she says that let him do what he wants and how he wants. Hearing this, the man was surprised, and she smiled and asked if he regretted that she was letting him go like this. The man claimed that this was nonsense, and she said that she would grant him a plot of land. Edson asks what she is saying, and the lady explains that she has nothing in mind, and that is for sure, and then says that if he wants, he can take any person from the palace with him, and for example, it could be his beloved. The lady looked at the guy and thought that he thought that she would try to harm her, and she wondered if he would decide to run away with her. Edson suddenly grabs the lady by the neck, and seeing this, the maid screams and turns to her highness, and says that there is no one outside, but she will call the guard. The princess assures that everything is fine, but the man tells her not to touch her. The lady offers him to do what he wants, and also asks if he lacks gunpowder. The man says that if she lays a finger on his beloved, he will kill her, and then suggests that she remember that he will make her pay for everything, both for making innocent people scapegoats and for considering human lives to be absolutely nothing. The young gentleman says that he will definitely let the whole world know what dirt is hidden behind the seductive appearance, because he believes that she will not like it. The main character asks if he knows her well, and also wonders if she would start talking empty words. After these words, the man knelt down and asked to spare her, and if Uriel was left alone, he would not care what would happen to him. At this time, the young lady thought that now he sees pure evil in front of him, but he understands that in fact the object of his anger and curses is not her. The princess reflects on the fact that she is not to blame for his misfortunes, because she considers herself to be exactly the same victim, because she was deprived of herself and her own world, finding herself in this game against her will, and she does not understand why she should stand here and listen to how she is being vilified. Eldria wonders if all he can do is curse her with pathetic words, and then says that she is able to make everything he said come true. The main character believes that Uriel in this game jumps into other people's beds, neglecting Edson, and he easily sacrifices himself for her and understands that she is not able to tell him. The lady suggests that he should not be afraid, because she will not do anything to him or her if he does not wish it, and asks if he wants to know why, and then says that he is a pathetic man, and she is tired of him because he has become boring to her faster than she thought, and even to the toy that she really wanted. She loses interest when she gets it. The maid turns to her highness and says that she has an unhealthy complexion, and the lady says that she is a little tired, and if you think about it, she has been serving her all day today and asks her name. The maid says that her name is Hess, and she is his highness's personal maid, and the princess says that that's all for today and that she should go and rest. When the main character went to bed, she thought that she was very tired, and thought that she had changed the development of the game, and therefore now she had to watch what would happen next. The system notification informs that, in a limited time, she has created a connection with Rovia, and so they congratulate her because she has captured his heart a little, and then asks if Edson is cycling is entertainment for her. The man with red hair asks if she says she didn't hear the screams of innocent people dying because of her. At this time, the princess thought that her words would sound cruel, but she believed that she had no choice, and then said that she would tell him something very interesting, where his beloved was now with whom and what she was doing. And at this time, she thought that in the end, they were just game characters. Edson tells her to shut up, and the girl thinks that she just needs to get her life back. The lady reports that this woman is now with her concubine, on the same bed where she tumbled with him. Having told this, the princess thought that he would immediately run to check, but she thinks that he did not have the courage to do this, but she assumes that he really trusts her so much. But in any case, their trust will collapse, and they will not be able to return to the previous state. The system notification informs that the interests of Roa towards her have dropped a little. Seeing this, the main character is surprised, because she does not understand, because she thinks that everything was going well. The notification says that Rovia wanted the princess's love, but couldn't get it. After meeting her, he began to sincerely dream of her future together. However, because of her insincere behavior, he began to have doubts. He suspects that she has another man for some time. In no case should he let him know about his relationship with Edson, because today, there are 29 days left. The main character does not understand what happened there, since he had doubts, and the notification says that she failed in consoling Rovia because of her inattention. Consolation, passive skill. Strength is reduced, and sincerity, passive skill level, is lowered. The young lady thinks that she is doing something crazy there, and let it all go to hell, because she doesn't care what kind of friction they have there. And today she is fed up with it. When the princess fell asleep, she heard someone talking to her, and when she rubbed her eyes, she saw Nadrik. The guy sat on her bed and asked if she had forgotten him. The lady was surprised and asked why he had come, and at that time she did not understand who it was, because the servant who entered her room closely communicated with her. But she could not just throw out the excuse that she had lost her memory. Nadrik reports that he heard that no one came into her and then unbuttons his shirt. The lady asks, and at that time thought that he smelled of alcohol and thought that he was drunk. The guy says that she hasn't looked for meetings with him for a long time, and there have always been men to replace her. But now when she sleeps alone, it looks like she's even bored with that. Nadrika claims that Her Highness never called him first, and then asks what was left since he had to visit her. The lady objects, and says that she is tired, and therefore just wants to sleep. And at this time, she thought that if her premonition is not deceiving her, she asks how Uriel is. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise what she is talking about, and at this time, the lady does not understand whether this is exactly Rovia. From this game notification, the one who was with Uriel. The system notification informs that Edson wants to have a relationship with her. However, if she agrees, then Rovia can see traces of it. And at the same time, if she refuses, Edson can make her an offer that she cannot refuse. A, to refuse B to evade with a lie, B to have a relationship, G to cry. The main character smiled and thought that tears are without reason, and she thinks that Uriel is hopeless, while she thinks that Edson and Rovia want to sit on 2 chairs. The princess touches his face and says that he is the same, because after meeting that woman, he had the audacity to come to her and then claims that a man should be loyal. But today she forgives him and therefore let him be kind and leave. The guy asks if she is angry, and then tells her that he is her concubine. And then he asks why she is always so cruel to him. Hearing this, the girl does not understand why she is cruel, and then asks if he has not slept with another, and suggests that he be honest in his behavior, and not let him get drunk with stupid tears. The guy asks in surprise how she can say such a thing, and no one but her, and then asks why he can't, and why only him. At this time, the main character thought that he was nothing more than a game character, and did not understand where he got such an expression on his face. Nadrika says that today she should be only him hearing this. The lady asks in surprise what he is talking about. The girl thought that, even if she is in this body now, it does not give her the right to do what she wants. He says that she should give herself to him tonight and ask for it. And then he wanted to touch her lips, but fell asleep. The system notification informs that the feeling of doubt of the Rovia was automatically counted as a failure, and an unknown error was detected, and a penalty was assigned, and as a penalty, the Rovia interest was reset. Zurana. Route Rovia is temporarily closed Zurain, and depending on the success in the hidden quest, the closed route will open again. After reading this, the main character was surprised and realized that an error had been detected again, and she did not understand what it meant. Suddenly, the girl heard the knights addressing her and telling her that something bad had happened. She asked in surprise what had happened. The guard reports that Prince Volodya and one of the palace servants have just been captured while attempting to escape. At this time, she realized that a hidden quest had begun, in which it was written that at the crossroads of life and death, she risked escaping in the middle of the night with Edson, who lived in the palace and was widely known as the princess's lover. And now the whole world has learned about his secret lover, and she must protect her and Edson's life from the princess's rage. The maid says that Her Highness has even pressed the servants and does not understand how she is going to deal with Prince Volodya. After all, he tried to escape from the palace with the maid. Another maid says that this could be the death penalty and asks if she would really go that far, since she believes that, in the palace, you won't find a person more ruthless than Her Highness. The princess turns to them and asks why they did this, and also wonders if this is a way of asking her to finish them off. Edson reminds that she herself said that she was letting them go, and the lady says that this is true, but does not remember allowing them to escape. Uriel away from him because who knows what she might get into her head. The lady claims that she promised that she would not do anything, and at that moment I looked at him and realized that he did not believe her at all. And then I looked at the maid and realized that I finally saw her. Uriel is the main character of this game, who has not a shadow of fear on her face and is not afraid of death because she believes that she will not die at the hands of a secondary character. The main character does not understand where she gets the feeling that she is familiar to her, and as if she has met her before. Elson says that she can finish him off, but let this girl go, and then asks if his life is not enough to calm her anger. The princess asks if he really wants this, and also wonders if he values this girl, or if the price of the life of the royal family of Volodya is so small. The man turns to the maid and says that everything is fine, and also calms her down, and then turns to the mistress and says that he said that now the most important thing in the world for him is to protect her. The system alert said that Princess Eldria knows the truth about him having fun with her concubine, and her patience is running out, and she must appease the princess's anger, and therefore must choose carefully, because Edson's life depends on it. Volodya. Uriel chose the answer to claim that she is not connected to Edson in any way. And then she says that nothing connects her to this man, and she screams and says that he dragged her along with him by force. The princess says that she will let them both go. Hearing this, the man asks in surprise what she is talking about, and the lady explains that she will give them so much money in addition that they will not spend it in their entire life, but on the condition that they never come back here again. The main character believes that while Uriel is nearby, Edson will not think about the place, and he will not attempt on her life. The princess understands that it is more difficult with Uriel. Edson is not enough for her, so she will probably want to stay in the palace, but she thinks that it is better for her to surrender. Rovia enters the room and asks the maid why she is here with him. The main character thought about Edson now. He saw everything with his own eyes, and finally understood that Uriel actually has another, but he understands that even though he is trying to hide it, it is clear that he was seriously wounded. A guy with blonde hair turns to the maid and asks how she could do this to him. Seeing this, the princess thought about how he had recently been pestering her, and now he was sorting things out with Uriel in front of her. She didn't understand why she had to watch a scene from a second-rate melodrama instead of her precious sleep. The main character turns to Rovia and says that he knelt down, and at that time she smiled because she realized that she now had to sort out their problems. The princess says that apparently he is not satisfied with his status as a concubine, and therefore she lets him go and he can be free. The young lady does not understand what kind of reaction this is, because she said that she would allow them to do as they wish, and then she said that they too could leave the palace together. Edson objects, and he doesn't want to leave, and the lady asks what's wrong. Rovia says that this bastard has no pride at all. The system notification says that the item Broken Heart once cannot be put back together, and in the future, no matter what he does, Edson will not leave her, and this item can disappear, and she must be careful. The main character looked at Uriel and saw that she was laughing and thought that this situation was amusing her, and then said that that was all. The maid turns to Her Highness and tells her screaming that she does not want to leave the palace because she thinks that leaving with this man is stupid because she came here to serve Her Highness. Uriel claims that she is truly innocent and therefore asks to be allowed to stay and serve her personally. At this time, the princess realized that she had decided to find out her weak spot and thought that she was a complete idiot. The maid said that she did not want to run away from the beginning, but this man forced her. Edson tells her to stop because he thinks that she doesn't want to die and leave either. But now he says that he's burning with desire to serve her, and then asks how much their capricious Uriel wants. The main character understands that even if she is thrown out, she will not back down and will eventually finish her off. The princess understands that she must finish her off before it is too late to save her own life. Her Highness says that she can do whatever she wants, but let her forget about becoming her maid. Hearing this, the maid says that she thanks, and Edson says that he will also stay here. Hearing this, the princess thought about what it meant. This was only the beginning because the game was just beginning. The system notification informs that at the crossroads of life and death, the quest is completed, and congratulations. And the reset of the interest of Rovia is saved. Rovia wrote Zaran went from disappearing to awaiting disappearing status, and life is awarded as a reward. Rovia asks Her Majesty why she doesn't ask him anything. She reminds him that she ordered him to leave, and he asks if she wants to throw him out, even if he is against it, and then claims that it is unfair. The princess asks what he expected, since he handed her over, but did not answer for it, and then asks him to name at least one reason why she should leave him nearby. The guy asks in surprise if he betrayed her, and then says that she accepted his feelings, and he is broken from his daydream on the day he first saw her in the Imperial Library. The main character says that it's boring, because she hoped that he would entertain her better, and then asks if he could do it with another woman, and she would watch. After the first night, she no longer sought meetings with him. Then the guy realized that the princess made him a concubine, and all this turned out to be a dirty game. Her Majesty suggests that he come when he sorts himself out, because she will give him enough freedom for tormenting him before, and at that time, she thought that she had enough worries without it. After all, she still can't finish off Uriel, even if this decision could lead to her death. Even if it was the only way to get out of the game, since she can't take a person's life. The girl understands that the game can end like this with a simple game over, without any casualties, because they exist in the same space, and therefore she cannot do something so reckless, and believes that she has missed her last chance. But she assumes that maybe everything is going well because she managed to send her away. The main character realizes that she can now follow Uriel while she is in the Imperial Palace. The next day, Nadrika asks Her Highness if she woke up, and then says that she brought water. The young lady thought that among all the people she had met here, he was the only one who remained friendly to her. The guy asks if everything is okay, because she has bags under her eyes. She explains that she has been very tired lately, and thought that she has been constantly tormented by insomnia since she was reborn in this body, and therefore believes that this is the reason for her fatigue. The girl reflects on the fact that this is not the first time she has heard this question from her close associates, but she wonders what about them, and then asks if this bruise on her neck is her doing. The princess thought that it was terrible, but she realized that she had no intention of getting into the past, so as not to create awkward situations. And then she said that she would lose the question of whether she left this bruise. The guy claims he is being treated, and the lady says whatever it is, he shouldn't lie to her. The young man claims he is indeed being treated, and he would never lie. The lady says that she will believe, and then asks the maid where the doctor responsible for him is. The maid informs Her Highness that it is forbidden to touch the property of the imperial family, because such are their customs, and the guy tells the lady that he is definitely fine, because he usually takes care of his own treatment. Forgot something and orders the medicine to be brought. The maid looked at her in surprise, and the mistress asks if she is also not allowed to touch him. The maid got scared, and then said that she would bring everything in a moment. The young lady turns to the guy and tells him to undress right now. Upon hearing this, the guy was surprised, but did everything as the lady ordered. The girl tells him to be patient for a little while, but when she saw his wounds, she was surprised at how evil a person can be. After she treated his wounds, Nadrik thanked the lady, but she says that he didn't even look at her. The guy was surprised, because she was simply doing something like that for someone like him, and it worried him. Hearing this, the lady reminded him that she had already told him not to show himself weak in front of others. The young man says that he wants to be exactly like this in front of Her Highness, and then asks if this can be done. Eldria thought that she understood that the passion in his gaze was the product of the belief that a real princess was taking care of him, and that he was not seeing her in front of him. And then he said that he couldn't do that. The girl says that she is done with the treatment, and the guy says that there are still wounds below and asks to show them, and then takes her hand and asks to heal him. At this time, a maid enters the room and announces that His Majesty is calling her to talk before the official dinner. The lady says that she understood and asks to tell him that she needs time to get ready. And at that time, she thought about something that she did not expect, but just a little more, and she would have succumbed to his charms. The Emperor tells Rhea that it has been a long time since they spoke face to face, and then asks if something happened last night. El Port Inzo Cecilia is the current emperor, and the princess's brother, the main character, thought that at first glance she would not understand what kind of person he is, and then says that there is nothing special. The gentleman says that he is glad to finally see her, and at that time the girl thought that now he is glad. But what will he do if he notices that under the guise of his sister, there is a completely different person hiding? The lady understands that she and the princess are close relatives, and their relationship is surprisingly warm, but she does not know why he turned a blind eye to her bad inclinations and allowed her to sink so low. The Emperor announces that he has important news, and the main character thinks that she has acquired some kind of immunity status. The gentleman asks if she is listening to him, and then says that he called because he wanted to tell her about something, because she was personally interested in the results of the war and the conclusion of a peace treaty with the Rothschild Empire in the Far East. His Majesty says that so, at the end of this month, their alliance will come to an end, and the reason was that the defeated Kingdom of Borne was unable to pay the huge contribution and broke up into two countries, between which an agreement was concluded on the internal territory of the Kingdom of Borne. Enzo explains what he wanted to say, and at that time, the girl thought that she screwed up since she decided to get into the role of a princess. She had to take everything into account, even politics. The Emperor says that he is thinking of handing over power to her, and then asks her how she likes the idea. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and then asked in surprise if she heard correctly. He says that if his sister is unhappy, she can do as she wishes, and then he objects, and says that in times like these, it is better to actively make connections, and then he calms her down and tells her not to worry because she has plenty of helpers. The Emperor reports that her loyal knight is just returning, and therefore believes that there should be no problems. Hearing this, the princess asks if it is true, and at that moment she became interested in who he is talking about. His Majesty informs that he will return with great merits, and then asks what she will do. Rhea asks whether to receive him with honors, and he says that it is a relief for him, because she was not at all excited by this news, and he decided that she had completely forgotten him. The princess asks in surprise how she could, and at this time, she thinks that she has no idea who it is. Enzo reminds that it was she who sent him into the very heat of the moment, and says that time flies so quickly, but he understands that 5 years ago, right after his wedding with her, he went to the front. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, because she realized that another favorite of the princess had appeared. The Emperor says that he even wondered if this war had arisen only because of discord between them, and then asks who could have imagined that he would return victoriously back to her. The main character thought that their relationship could not be called simply strained because she started a war to get rid of him by sending him to certain death, and he returns with victory. The system notification informs that the border knight will arrive at the palace in 10 days. Faces upon arrival, he intends to find out who she is, with whom he has been exchanging letters for a long time. Until then, she must become the princess's personal maid and arrange a chance meeting with him as the princess's second concubine, since the remaining time is 9 days. The maid looked at Her Highness and wondered what she was thinking so deeply about. At this time, the main character is thinking about how this crazy guy decided to push all his responsibilities onto her, and she doesn't understand how she could have known that everything would turn out like this. The girl remembers that the Emperor said that he did not know what changes had occurred in her soul, but when he heard about the events of the previous night, he believed that she was capable of conducting these negotiations because she had enough wisdom and mercy for this. The princess understands that now she looks like this, and the soul in this body is really different, so we can say that changes have occurred because the real princess has disappeared, but has appeared as the one everyone wants to see, and she thinks that this sounds like a bad joke. His Majesty says that of course he understands that she is not yet experienced, so Sir Iclot will help her with the complex details. Rhea asks if he is still her concubine. Enzo asks what she is talking about, and then explains that, of course, until she sends him off to another war. And the girl claims that he hates her. The Emperor says that she knows very well what kind of person he is. The princess thought that she should deal with one favorite, but then so many of them came at once. The system alert tells her that she found a note left by Edson, and it said that he would be waiting at their regular meeting place. And then it tells her that she went towards Rovia and wonders who she will choose, and Edson be Rovia. Eldria reflects on the fact that despite the events of this night, she continues this chaos because she has already rejected 2 men. The girl thought that it was not Edson, and she had to escape that night, and then tells the maids that she needs to go outside. The maids were scared, and then said that this can't be done. At this time, the main character doesn't understand what the princess was doing outside to cause such a reaction. The lady says that 1 maid should stay, and the rest should go. Hearing this, the maid screams, and says that she will take care of her highness, and then runs up to her and falls on her knee. At this time, the young lady thought that this girl was full of surprises, and if she had gone a little further, she would have crushed her to the floor. The maid turns to her highness and asks to forgive her, and then says that she is ready to do anything to atone for her guilt. The main character asks her name, and the maid replies that her name is Daisy, and then asks not to finish her off because she is terribly, terribly guilty. At this time, the girl thought that she herself did not notice how she laughed, and then asks Daisy if she is okay, and if she hit her head. The princess says that she will spare her if she stops crying. Hearing this, the maid is surprised and asks if this is true, and does it mean that she will not punish her. Rhea suggests that she tell him, as punishment, where there is a secluded spot in the palace park. When the young lady went outside, she thought that now she had come to life a little and understood that the day was not over yet, but her heels were already burning from fatigue, and she felt as if a hurricane had swept through her world, trembling before the Princess Nadric, thirsting for her love, Rovia, Edson, who mortally hates her, and the terrifyingly unknown Eclot. The main character understands that these are strange connections, neither love nor trust nor mutual understanding. The girl does not understand whether she will be able to return to her real world, and she wonders what if she has to live like a princess stuck in this fictional world imposed on her. Eldria doesn't know what to do, and suddenly she saw a guy named Edson standing near the tree. The message says that she found a note left by Edson, which stated that he would be waiting at their regular meeting place, and she was walking towards Rovia, and then asks who she would choose, Edson Rovia. Uriel turns to the young gentleman and asks for forgiveness, and explains that she almost did something stupid. She says that when he saw them with Edson during the interrogation of the princess, she understood everything, and then claims that she cannot escape from him with him. The young gentleman asks if she wants to say that she stayed here because of him, and the girl assures that this is true. Edson realized that it was a lie, and now he could understand the reason why she met with him. And just like this lying woman, he does not feel any remorse. Uriel says that she is so happy that he did not hate her, and claims that this is the pure truth, because at this time she is now sincere with him. At this time, the guy thought that both he and she do not love each other, but the maid hugs him and also wants to show that she is sincere. The girl says that she wants to meet with her highness. Having heard this, the guy does not understand why she needed this, but she asks him because she believes that he is the only one she can turn to. The young gentleman says that he will help her because she is a woman close to him and he values her. Uriel thought that she had not received a single bell about the increase in interest, and then the system notification was fierce, pissed her off, and doesn't understand how he could cool off towards her and considers him a cunning bastard. The message says that Rovia's interest is 0 and there are no changes. The maid thought that after the skirmish with the princess, the game reset all progress, and she understands that if it continues like this, the route will close, and she thinks that all her attempts to fix the situation have ended in failure. The maid doesn't understand what to do, and thinks that she can stay aside and watch, but she knows that it shouldn't be like this, because she is the main character of this game, And then screaming, she says that it's time for him to return to hers. Uriel saw the princess's concubine and of course was happy because she had a plan for him. At this time, the main character greets Rovia and thought that this must be the place where he is going to meet Uriel. At this time, the guy leaves, and the girl asks him to wait and thought that they could just disperse, pretending that they did not see each other. But she believes that even though they both feel awkward, she cannot leave everything as it is. The lady grabs the man by the hand and asks where he is going. He is surprised and asks why she grabs him, because he thinks that they are not in the right relationship to bow to each other. The main character wonders if he will leave without even saying hello. And at that time, she saw a notification that Rovia doubts her because of her desire to meet Princess Eldria. And there are answer options. A. Say that she wants to become a personal maid. B. Say that she wants to beg for forgiveness and get Rovia. C. Don't say the reason. The young lady understands that she left Edson and went to Rovia and thinks that she doesn't really need him. But no matter how important the place of her personal maid is, she acts so cruelly. The young gentleman asks if she has come to say that she has changed her mind. Hearing this, the princess thinks that she has already said that he has bored her, and that if she drives him away, it will look strange. The lady offers him to stay until he himself wants to leave. But in exchange, he will no longer be a prisoner, a hostage, or a guest. Rovia asks in surprise who he will be then, and the girl explains that she will give him the opportunity to stay in this country, but he will have a position here, and this is what she is offering. The young gentleman asks in surprise if she thinks this is possible for him. The main character asks where he would go if he ran away from the palace, and then tells him to pay if he wants to live here, and if he doesn't want to, he can go to work. Although for this, he still needs to have housing. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise if she understands what she is saying and thinks it is nonsense. And she says that from this moment on, nothing connects them as if they were strangers. The lady says that she has not forgotten what she did before and knows that he cannot stand her so much that he wishes her death, and then offers to bury his hostility because she believes that he will not succeed, and she will never forget such a favor. The lady says that he can even live here with his beloved, and she will accept it. And the guy asks if this is the end, because he understands that she gave him up so easily. Hearing this, the main character thought that he must be devastated and irritated, and her words made him completely confused. The prince says that with such insignificant feelings, she destroyed his country and mercilessly dealt with his people. He asks if he repays her for everything, then maybe he will feel better. The guy looked at the lady and asked why she was crying, and then said that it was strange because he never expected this, and thought that it was completely unlike her. The young gentleman asks her to confess whether she is making fun of him again. The main character heard this and did not understand how she could tell him that she was not the princess he knew, and believed that they were so similar because they both ended up in a world alien to them, and both were powerless to change anything. The girl asks for forgiveness, and then says that she is sorry. And at that time, he thought that if she had appeared here a little earlier, he would not have had to experience so much suffering. Rovia screams and orders him to stop, and stop messing with his head. He asks her to stop. At this time, a maid came up to them and asked Edson where he was, and also wondered how long he had been waiting for her. At this time, the main character does not understand why she hid and why she suddenly burst into tears in front of him. Uriel hugs the gentleman and asks for forgiveness. He says that it's nothing because he didn't wait for her for long, and she explains that she didn't apologize for that. The young gentleman says that he only needs her and that these are his feelings, and then says that in time he will tell her because he believes that she has a right to know. Eldria doesn't understand why she decided to stay and not run away, and at that time she thought that he loves her very much, and she can't find such a devoted man, and she thinks that it's amazing and so slick that it's not funny anymore. The system notification says that under these conditions, he still chooses her and asks what her actions are. A. To say that it is hard to look at him and break up. B. To thank him and have a connection. C. To have a connection with special passion right now. After reading this, the main character does not understand that right here and now, and what other options there are, and thought that maybe this notification is joking. The girl thinks that even if she offers this, Edson will refuse, and at that time, she thought that he knows that she is hiding here and thinks that she should choose option A. The young lady thought that this girl has no brakes. The young master tells her to wait because he thinks that suddenly someone will see, and the maid says that she doesn't care because they don't need to hide their relationship anymore, and then they kiss. The maids ask her highnesses if she has returned, and at that time, the mistress thought that she had hung around there until sunset, until they had had their fun, and that she was tired and only got a migraine. The main character thought that she and Edson were similar, but she realized that unlike her, he has someone dear to him. And when the lady entered her room, she saw the Nadric and then asked what happened since his face was gone. The guy turns to her highness and says that the woman touched him, and the lady asks in surprise what woman he is talking about. And at that time, she thought that Nadrika thinks that she is a princess who has lost her memory. And since she is the current one, she knows this woman. The lady asks if he is talking about Uriel. And at this time, she reflects on the fact that she was thinking whether Nadrika is one of the love goals of the game for Uriel. The princess asks if he slept with her. Hearing this, the guy screams and claims that he did not do it and would never do it. The main character looked at the guy and does not understand why he even cries so beautifully, because she would admire it forever. She thinks that she and Uriel are clearly not close. The lady asks, who if not she was so impudent that he dared to touch her concubine. Nadrika says that everyone knows that even if he is harassed, her highness will be told. The lady asks why he has remained silent until now, and he replies that because then, her highness would have finished him off. The young lady asks if he thinks she is capable of this now, and the guy replies that she is, and the main character asks where this woman touched him. The guy looked at the lady with embarrassment, and she then kissed him. He says that he doesn't remember, but if she tries again, then he will remember. The girl kisses him on the hand and asks if that's where they kissed him, but he sits quietly and doesn't even move because he really likes it. By guards enters the room, he addresses her highness and says that he is a gentleman from the House of Lebanon. The knight explains that this man persistently demanded to meet with her, and they tried to drive him away, but he suddenly broke through. The gentleman fell on his knees and claimed that he was guilty, and the princess said that that was enough and let them see him. At this time, the gentleman hearing this screams and tells them to take their hands off him because they don't even know who he is, and then turns to her highness and asks why she pretends not to recognize him, and then says that he is her favorite, and she said that she will soon give him status. The princess says that unfortunately this will not happen, and then orders to lock him up for the whole night. Hearing this, the man screams and says that he cannot believe it. The gentleman screaming says that she took the rusty one, and as soon as he becomes her highness's concubine, the first thing he will do is cut off their heads, and then screaming tells them to let him go. At this time, the main character thought that, as soon as they appeared before her, they began to shake with fear, and she thought that apparently it was nothing for the princess to destroy someone's tin, and if it became interesting, are all these bloody traces of her deeds. The girl understands that she does not need a life where everything depends on her so much that they watch her every gesture, and as if on command cry or smile. The princess approaches the guy and asks if he thinks others can't touch him because he belongs to her, and then hugs him. The guy agrees with her, and the lady explains that he belongs only to himself. The lady says that that is why he acted as he saw fit and did not do what he did not like. Hearing this, Nadrika objects and says that he does not like what her highness does not like. She says that it was like that before, and she ordered and he obeyed. But this is not what she wants now. The lady says that she wants him to become more free and happy, and then kisses him on the cheek. And at this time, the guy blushed, and she thought that he looked very cute. Eldria says that if he doesn't like something, then she doesn't either, and thinks that it's very good. The maid brought the lady tea, and she asked how long she had been working in the palace. The maid replied that it was the 4th year. The princess says that this is not a small amount, and then claims that then she should know that Nadrika confessed to her very long and frankly yesterday, and she was surprised that many in the palace do not take her seriously. Hearing this, the maid was surprised and frightened, and then asked what he told her. She turns to her highness and claims that she is not guilty of anything, and the mistress says that she knows everything. The maid falls to the floor and begs for mercy, and then says that she has committed a mortal sin. The princess says that if she wants to live, she will have to answer all her questions without a shadow of a lie. The knight turns to her highness and tells her that they caught them as she ordered. Edric looked at the servants and says that since they all recognize each other, they understand what crime unites them. The main character claims that their shamelessness has crossed all boundaries, and she knows everything they have done. The girl thought that they had a bad example before their eyes, not only in the person of the princess, but also that the owner of the palace himself taught them to humiliate those who were weaker than them, who could mockingly lure anyone into his bedroom and throw them out. The princess raised her hand, and the knight said that he understood, and then pulled out his sword. Seeing this, the maid screamed and turned to her highness and reminded her that she promised to spare her if she told everything. The lady says that she would not like to stain her shoes with blood, and then orders them to be taken outside, and at that time she thought that in fact she does not want red liquid on her hands, but she also could not help but frighten them. Eldria says that she was thinking about beheading them as a warning to others, but she will give them another chance and suggests that they remember, because there will be no mercy the second time. The next day, the maid tells the other maids that her mistress is very cool, and her highness turned out to be even cooler than she thought. The maid asks Drazy what she is talking about and who is cool, and the girl replies that it is her highness. Hearing this, the senior maid asks if she has eaten enough of the conditionally edible mushrooms and is now delirious. Drazy assures that this is not so, and that the lady is such a sweetheart, and that serving her highness is God's grace. The maid asks in surprise if she's crazy, and then wonders if she doesn't know that this princess has killed several servants again. And at that moment, she thinks that this is pissing her off, because she had to give herself to some freak in armor so that he would cover her. Drazy says that if her highness did this, then they deserved it. The dark-haired maid asks in surprise what she knows, and it seems to her that she has not yet experienced her wrath. Hearing this, Drazy was surprised and wondered why, and then said that she had of course screwed up a little in front of her, but she had forgiven her, and therefore now works hard for her highness, and then asked why she should be punished. The maid asks in surprise what she has done, and at that moment, she thinks that it is scary even to ask. Drazy reports that she stepped on her highness's dress and ran up to her, and then slipped and fell right on her, and the lady caught her, and then reports that her highness is a sweetheart. Sitting at the dinner table, the main character says that she wanted to talk to him about one matter. The emperor says that he is always ready to listen to her request, and then asks why she is hesitating today, because she knows that there is no refusal for her, and therefore suggests that she not be shy, and continue because she is anticipating something interesting. At this time, the main character became interested in whether he would be so disposed if he found out that she was not his sister, and then says that it is necessary to determine the location of the Prince of Volota, since now she no longer has a reason to keep him near her. Enzo says that it is reasonable because keeping a person who had fun with the servants near her may not have a very good effect on her authority. The lady says that if the status of her concubine does not suit him, then another place should be found for him according to his title. The gentleman thinks that this is a good idea, and therefore will think about it. Raya says that she decided to leave the maid who was going to run away with him because she begged her to give her a chance to prove her loyalty. The emperor informs that the name of this maid is Uriel. Hearing this, the girl asks in surprise how he knows the name of some maid. His highness says that he receives reports about what is happening in the palace, and she is a beauty with black hair and scarlet eyes. Hearing this, the main character realized that he immediately changed the subject, but suspected that the emperor was definitely interested in Uriel, and she became interested in what if there was a connection between them in the game. The princess asks Hess how things are going. She says that she has sorted everything out as she ordered. A few days ago, the main character reports that she heard everything while she was waiting for them, and therefore they must be ready to leave the palace tonight. The lady says that she will spare them, but this does not mean that they will escape punishment. Hess tells the lady that she has prepared documents for an urgent dismissal, and the princess says that they will be transferred to another place and will become her eyes and hands there, and they are forbidden to communicate with their former colleagues. The lady says that if it turns out that they are hiding something from her again, or deceiving her, then they will pay for it, and then says that from this moment on, their lives are hers. The princess tells the maid to send people to the imperial palace this time, and let them find out whether His Majesty has encountered Uriel. The next morning, the main character looked at the guy and thought that he was sleeping like an angel, and she looked at him all night but couldn't get enough. The girl understands that in this world alien to her, his feelings have become her only support. Nadrika woke up and wishes his lady a good morning, and she asks if he had a good rest, and then kisses him. And at that time, she thought that she could not have endured all this without him. The main character believes that little by little, she began to get used to life in the palace, because she thinks that it's good that she's a princess and not a servant. When the maids saw Her Highness, they said in surprise that the pantsuit suited her very well. At this time, the young lady thought that she should not imitate the princess's behavior, but maintain a balance between her personality and hers, so that the differences would not be obvious. Drazy looked at the lady and thought that the princess was dressed to go out and wanted to take a walk again, and therefore thought that she should serve her on the walk. At this time, the girl thought that it was written on their faces that each of these maids wanted to go with her, and then asked if she would join them. The maid tells the princess that the weather is very beautiful today, and she has made her tea and then gives it to her. Drazy says that she is so glad that the lady invited her along. The lady says that she is pleased to hear that. The maid says that she wove this wreath of flowers especially for her. The princess says that it is very beautiful, and then asks if she will teach her how to weave it. In a few minutes, the lady made a wreath of flowers, and when the maid saw this, she said that she had talent and asked if she would give this wreath to that person. The lady asks in surprise who she is talking about, and also wonders if she means Nadrika and why she does not call him by name. Drazy says that you can't just say the name of a person who belongs to the imperial family, because everyone calls him that person, so she does too. Raya wonders if he has never called her husband, for example. The maid says that he has an unofficial status, and husbands are usually called not by their first name, but by their last name, and since he was a slave, he does not have a last name, and she thought that maybe that person was a nickname that the servants at court gave him. Drazy reports that their position is always higher than that of ordinary people. Hearing this, the main character thought that she guessed that there could be an era of slavery here, but she did not assume that Nadrika was a slave, because in the palace, he is the most disenfranchised and thinks that his duty is to patiently endure everything. The lady understands that, because he desperately needs her protection. And then she saw the notification that the Eldrian princess's weak point had been revealed. Viat. She failed to expose the weak point due to insufficient grounds, and she has one attempt left, and it is yes or no. Uriel clicked no, and the notification said that if she wanted to increase the probability of success, she should wait for the right moment. At this time, the maid thought that she had failed again, and she wondered if this was a hint now. The guy turns to her, and she asks in surprise why he is here. Rovia wonders if he can ask why she came to Her Highness's palace, and then reminds her that he told her to wait. Uriel asks how long she should wait, because he only promises, but she doesn't believe in words, but in deeds. The girl asks him to admit that he can't help her, and then asks if he thinks she won't find another way. The guy touches her shoulders and suggests that she not be angry, but trust him, and then asks if he is her lover. Uriel looked at the gentleman and thought that he was lying, because she knew that the level of interest had been reset, and he was probably pretending because he needed her for some reason. The gentleman says that if she tells him why she wants to meet the princess, he will find the best way to arrange it, and believes that after what happened, she should not catch her eye for now. Hearing this, the girl asks in surprise if she really didn't call him after that night, but in response, there was only silence, and she says that she hit the nail on the head and asks if he understands that the lady found out about their relationship, but still left her in the palace. The maid claims that the mistress has lost all interest in him. Hearing this, the guy agrees with her and says that he knows it. The girl doesn't understand that he even knows, because this woman has become a completely different person, and the aura emanating from her, every gesture and habit. Even the facial expression is different, and she doesn't understand what happened to her. Uriel suggests that this could be a consequence of her intervention that is now manifesting itself, and she didn't even suspect it. At this time, the main character asks the maids what they managed to find out. The maid reports that no one has seen Uriel in the imperial palace. Rose, and they checked it through Her Majesty's maid, and the information is accurate. The princess became interested in why Uriel had not yet met the emperor, and understands that it is good if they are not connected, but if the emperor himself is involved, then she will not be able to sit idly by any longer, since she knows that Uriel is looking for her weak spot. Hess turns to her highness and asks where to put the wreath that she brought, and the princess replies that she should leave it on the table, and at that time she thought about what she should tell Nadrika, that they need to be away from each other for a while. Rhea is thinking about how Nadrika didn't come last night, although she waited for him until late. It's not like she wanted him to spend days in her bedroom. The maid informs her highness that Mr. Zurin has arrived, and the lady suggests that he come in. The man says that by order of the emperor, from today onwards, he will teach her highness. Seeing this in a person, the girl was surprised, because it was Rovia, and she did not understand what he had just said. The man says that according to the legend of the country's foundation, the leading ideology from early times was the education of the workforce and strengthening of defense, and then asks the princess if she is listening to him. The lady claims that she is listening to him, and at that time, she thought that she immediately needed to find out who Zuran was, because she did not expect that it was Rovia's last name. Rhea remembered that when she asked the emperor to find an advisor on diplomatic issues, he said something strange that he would tell Zuran in secret that she needed him, and then smiled and said that he understood her feelings. The main character thinks that now it is clear to her, because he decided that she wants to return the concubine who has cooled towards her, but her pride is too hurt to call him personally, so she needs help. However, she does not understand what the emperor thinks of his sister. Rovia tells her to repeat what he just said. She tells him that after the war and colonization of the captured states, the tribute received from them became the basis for the growth of their empire, and asks if the war and colonization alone strengthened them. The man claims this is true, and then states that the amount of harvest from their land was not enough for the growing populations. The gentleman says that there was a shortage of agricultural equipment because every year there was less and less land suitable for cultivation, and in addition, in the center of the continent, where the Orbit Empire was located, there was a cold climate, and the situation was worsened by the fact that land rent was increasing, and in cultivated areas, crops were perishing from frost. Hearing this, the girl asks in surprise, how? And he says that their solution was magic. The empire which foresaw its decline expressed resistance to the widespread expulsion and extermination of magicians at that time. Rovia reports that thanks to the possibilities of magic, the borders of their empire have greatly expanded, and in truth, it was possible to expand them even further. But this required a corresponding increase in the army and weapons. The man reports that if you thoughtlessly enslave lands, there is a danger not only of protests by the indigenous population, but also that the taxes collected will not cover the costs of maintaining the captured states, and it is more profitable for them to be colonies. Zurin says that the Born Kingdom, which was geographically favorable, was originally the prey hunted by the Rothschild Kingdom, and the climate in this country was mild unlike Veladi. Hearing this, the main character asked about Velod. The man explains that Velod is full of mineral mines, so it is an excellent colonial source of income, and in some sense, it is a treasure trove of gold, silver, various rare stones, and marble. The princess explains that she didn't mean it that way, because she thought she had completely destroyed the bike. Rovia wonders if he has noticed any semblance of pangs of conscience in her, and the girl asks if it is because of him that she has no conscience. The man says that he doesn't believe her, but even if she's not playing a prank on him, it's not only her fault, and it's true that the emperor cares very much about her highness, but he's too calculating to miss out on a real benefit. The gentleman says that her highness wished to capture Prince Edson Valoda and His Majesty his lands with mines, and therefore their interests coincided, and the emperor satisfied not only her whim, and then says that remorse, and it does not suit her. Rovia asks if she is going to ask him for forgiveness, and also asks if it is too late for her to regret. The lady claims that it is never too late, even if nothing can be changed. The princess says that if a person does not look back, he cannot change, and guilt alone cannot atone for sins, but it is possible that she can prevent mistakes in the future, and therefore considers this important. The main character suggests ending their lesson here because she is a little tired and wants to rest. At this time, the man does not understand how she can feel sorry for someone other than him, and he does not really understand who changed her so much. Nadrika entered the room, and when Rovia saw him, he asked in surprise how he dared to appear before the lady without an invitation. At this time, the guy was a little embarrassed, and then asked for forgiveness, but the master stopped him and said that he was a puppet slave for bed pleasures, and should only do what he was told, and he should rush at the snap of a finger and not show his nose unless called. Rovia asks how he can impose himself so brazenly on Her Highness. The guy claims that he is no longer a slave. The gentleman asks if this cancels his low origin, and then asks if he has decided that since she hasn't let him out of bed for several days, he is irreplaceable, and then tells him to remember his place and behave appropriately, and not to delude himself anymore. At this time, Rovia thought about what they say that Her Highness has been keeping only that man near her for several days now, and seems not to notice other men, and this guy acts as if he means something to her, as if he doesn't know that she can't sincerely love someone. Nadrika asks who he is to talk to him like that, and then says that he betrayed Her Highness, and did not even try to beg for forgiveness. And after that, he thinks that he will be able to teach someone. The concubine says that he is impudent, but at least not like him, a wild beast who knows no devotion and compassion. Rovia wonders what is the point of begging for forgiveness if she knows she will not receive it. And the guy claims that there is always a point, even if she knows for sure that she will not be forgiven. The young man came into the lady's room and looked at her sleeping, then took a blanket and covered her, and wished that she would certainly have good dreams, and then kissed her. The man asks permission to introduce himself, and then says that he is the captain of the Knights of the Imperial Palace, Leo de Fête. And the gentleman says that his name is Rovia Zuran. 20 minutes ago, the man said that he would recommend her a manual that from now on should become her reference book, because today they found out what level of knowledge she was at. But for a more in-depth study of the material covered, she should read it before their next meeting. The main character says that she understands, and says that on her way from the training ground, she will stop by the library. Hearing this, the gentleman asked in surprise whether she was going to the training ground without the accompaniment of servants, and the princess answered that she was, and at that time, she thought that it would be good to find out about the hiccups from other knights. Rovia asks if it would be better if he accompanied the lady. Hearing this, the lady does not understand what he means, and then asks if she allows it, will she show sensitivity? The man says that this is true, and Her Majesty agrees to let him accompany her. At this time, the main character thought that it was her fault that she got emotional and gave in to him, and then she said that she already knew everything from the official report, but wanted to personally verify the exam for promotion to knighthood, in which Edson decided to participate. Veladi. The princess says that he doesn't understand because she's not going to protect him at all. The captain suggests that they admit that it's a misunderstanding, and then says that if you think about it, Her Highness has a separate knightly detachment under her direct command, and wonders why she doesn't just assign him there. Rovia screams and asks how he dares to speak in such a tone. Lo thinks that since they came, they should first find out if there is a vacancy there, and only then make a final decision. At this time, the young lady does not understand what kind of reaction this is, and thinks that the princess has laid her hands on the knightly order. But it is obvious that this man cannot stand the princess, and does not even try to hide it, and therefore thinks that it is useless to talk to him further, and then says that it is time for them to go. The knight captain says that the advance party will soon arrive with victory, and therefore he is busy and asks for forgiveness from His Highness. Raya thought that it turned out that her knightly squad was located next to the 6th training ground. Rovia angrily says that he should go back and teach him some manners, and says that it is clear that he holds a grudge against her, since he is Sir Face's closest disciple. Hearing this, the lady thought that he was a friend of the princess's second concubine, whom she had sent off to war, and therefore his disgust for her was understandable. And then she said that Rovi did not teach anyone good manners, because silence was a sign of consent. The girl wonders if sunbathing is allowed on the training ground, since she saw half-naked knights. The man shouts and announces that Her Highness has arrived and they must get ready and line up quickly. At this time, the main character looked at the naked bodies and did not understand what kind of parade of naked male bodies this was. The knight asks Her Highness if she wants to hunt, because he has prepared a helmet and a stronger saddle, so that the same thing as last time does not happen. Hearing this, the girl became curious about what happened last time and assumed that she fell off her horse. Rovia asks the lady in surprise if she remembers, and then says that during her sexual experiment, her partner fell off his horse, and she said that hunting especially turns her on. Hearing this, the main character does not understand whether she is really like that, and this is not a knightly detachment, but the princess's personal harem, and then says that she is not in the mood to hunt today. The princess says that she came to inform that she is going to liquidate their squad upon hearing this. The guys were surprised, and then asked if Her Highness had decided to get rid of them. Suddenly, Raya saw a guy with black stripes, and she became interested in who he was. The young lady thought that even among all these handsome men, he stood out especially as. The guy turns to Her Highness and asks her to explain what they are guilty of, and not to destroy them. The princess asks if she said that she would finish them off, and then suggests that they say what they see as the meaning of their lives. The young man says that he wants to run away, and the lady asks if this is her knightly squad. The main character says that she will offer them a worthy way out, and whether they are knights or not, they will pass an exam to increase their knightly rank, and if they pass, they will remain members of the knightly order, and if not, they can leave the palace. The lady says that they are free to do it right now. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise how they will pass it, because even active knights pass it with difficulty. Rita asks what grounds they have for receiving a government salary, and then asks if they are satisfied with this state of affairs. The girl thought that it had dawned on them that she was serious about breaking up this bunch of lazybones, and said that she understood that they had lost their previous carefree life, and suggested that they think for themselves whether it was worth it. The lady suggests that they will convince her to leave everything as it is today, and then asks if they are confident about tomorrow, because something might change. The young man says that they have nowhere to go, because the servant is a milk delivery man from some capital, the youngest son of a baron without an inheritance, and then asks where they can go. The guy points his finger at the man and says that only he has nothing to worry about, but they are different. At this time, the main character does not understand who this person is, and the guy says that his teacher is the captain of the Imperial Knightly Order, so he gets away with everything, and he used to work as a deputy captain. The lady came up to this guy and asked what he was doing here, and the young man asked in surprise what she was talking about. The lady called the name Leo de Fate, and the stranger says that this is his teacher. The girl thought that she had led both the teacher and the student, and therefore understood that the unfortunate de Fate had every reason to hate the princess. Raya says that she will immediately take steps to ensure that he gets everything he needs, as she understands that he will need money in order to start a new life. The lady says that she will provide for him so that he will never regret it and can even pay for his military training. The young man kneels down and says that he cannot leave because he has spent all his best years on her and she will not compensate him in any way, and then asks to accept him as a concubine. The guy asks why she does this to him because she liked him. The lady says that she did, and at that moment, the gentleman approaches the princess and suggests that she stay behind him. The man with black hair asks the lady to forgive him for this, because the sudden news about the dismissal clouded his mind, so he forgot his place. But he knows a way to make him remember, and then goes to the guy and hits him. The captain's assistant asks Her Highness if she is taking action, because he will help her persuade them. The princess says she will do so, and then tells him to stop because she can finish him off. The guy says he won't finish him off because he knows where to hit. At this time, the main character thought about what else could be expected, because they were used to being the princess's favorite toys. But she did not understand what this man was doing among them, and why he was acting as if he didn't care. Ria asks if he is happy with everything, and he says who knows, and then asks if he looks like he is happy with everything. Rovia says that he heard about that man, and his name is Sigurd, and he is from ordinary people, but was the youngest deputy captain, and then says that it is time to go back. The maid turns to Edson and asks him to do everything as she wants, because it is necessary. He asks if it will not hurt her to ask for such a thing, and then asks why she does this to him. Uriel screams and says that she said that she can't tell yet, but he promised that he would wait and asks if his feelings for her have changed. The man claims that his feelings for her are the same, and they will continue to meet as before, and he will be by her side. The girl offers to prove that he loves her, and the gentleman says that he will do as she asks, but only if she doesn't cry. The system notification informs that if he so desires, then let him pass the upcoming exam for the knighthood title, and he will be allowed to carry weapons with him, and he will return his sword and hope that he makes the right choice. Unforgettable feelings have moved from a state of expectation to a state of awakening, and the beginning of awakening 0%. And access is impossible because it is forced to change to a state of inaction. The princess heard how Uriel was grabbed by the maids, and she screamed and asked what they were doing and why she was forbidden to be here. After all, she was a palace maid. The maid asks if she can even pass by this place. Drazy says that it is obvious that she is not just standing there, and then asks if she is going to slip into the princess's chambers and tells her not to create problems for them. Another maid offers to take her away quickly. Meanwhile, the mistress asks, "What's the matter?" Uriel turns to her highness and informs her that she has a proposal for her, and it is connected with Edson Velodom, and then says that she won't regret it if she listens to her. The princess says that the two of them are free and Uriel should follow her. The maid reports that her highness has spared her, and therefore asks to be allowed to thank her. At this time, the main character thought that she sees right through her, and then asks if she still expects to become her maid. The maid agrees with her, and then says that in addition to this, she spoke with Mr. Velod, and he is ready to serve her every night as before, and then asks if she would like it. Rhea says that she doesn't know how she was able to convince him, and what she was hoping for by coming here, and then screaming, asks how she can do this to him. Uriel looked at the lady in surprise, and asked what she was talking about. The princess said that he loves her, and asked if that wasn't enough, and also wondered how one could be so greedy. The young lady understands that in order to achieve her goal, she forced the gentleman to go to the bedroom of another woman, and not to anyone but to her enemy, and she offered him this while looking straight into his eyes, and therefore knows that she burst into tears again in order to convince him. Uriel asks if her highness has a little of that which she owns, but does not use, and also wonders if it irritates her that she owns Edson's feelings and orders him to give her his heart. Rhea suggests that she keep quiet if life is dear to her, and then tells her that it will never be the same for her, and therefore she must accept it. The system notification says that an unknown error has been detected, and a new ending has been found to be happy with what you have. Due to the change of the princess, a hidden ending was revealed when choosing, they will be able to avoid the shadow of death above them, and get out of the whirlpool of fate, but will forever be denied endless glory and untold riches. The roots of Rovia will be closed, Zuran and Iklot faces in process. The main character offers Uriel to choose whether this option will suit her, although it is known what awaits them at the end of the game. But it is interesting whether they will return to their world or will be stuck in this one forever. But maybe eternal peace awaits them. The system alert tells them that they can't turn back, so they have to decide wisely and choose to be happy with what they have, or not to choose, because this is the only happy ending where they don't have to finish each other off. Uriel chose the answer not to choose, and then asks what she has to lose. The notification said that this is a hidden ending and being happy with what she has was destroyed. The girl says that she suggested this only because she wanted to be useful to her, because every sleepless night she thought that if she disappeared here, not of her own free will, and continues this game out of hopelessness. The main character reflects on the fact that she thought that they were similar, and that by revealing the whole truth, they could help each other, but she made her choice without hesitation. Uriel turns to her highness and thanks her for listening to her, and then says that she is embarrassed that she could not thank her because she said everything she wanted, and with that she takes her leave. The princess tells me to tell Edson that this will not happen, and that he should not worry about it. Rhea got tired and lay down on the bed, and thought about how similar they were, but their paths were different, and she wondered if there really was another way out. When Drazy saw Uriel, she asked in surprise what she was doing here, because she was forbidden to be here. The maid asks if she heard, and then says that the ban has been lifted. Drazy asks in surprise how it was lifted, since she was the one who caused such a fuss yesterday, and therefore thinks that it can't be. The dark-haired maid asks what she is saying and how she can lie, especially when it concerns her highness, and then says that she was right because their mistress is such a magnanimous person. Uriel says that they talked to her, and from that day on she became her personal maid. and now you are carrying out her first assignment. Drazy asks in surprise what she wants from her, and the maid says that this assignment concerns her, and Her Highness said that she cannot simply enjoy her company. Hearing this, the maid was surprised, because she did not understand why Her Highness did not say this personally. Uriel reports that she has a secret matter, and the work is not difficult, and therefore she must try to do it as discreetly as possible and simply pass this note to the person who is currently at court. At this time, the princess grabs this note and says that she does not remember giving instructions, and then says that she wants to see what is in the note. The lady reads that Sir Tellerus sends her a gift as a greeting, and this will dispel his fatigue after a long journey. Rhea says that now it's clear to her that this girl is very young and inexperienced, and is completely to his taste. Uriel turns to Her Highness and asks her to wait as she will explain everything, and also asks her to listen to her. The main character grabs her by the neck and says that she is good, because it is written plausibly, because if something had happened, everyone would have believed that she did it, and then asks if this is what she was counting on. The young lady thought that her own system alerts had given her a hint. Last night, the servant was convinced by her storytelling talent. Rhea realizes that this time, the servant just stepped out the door and immediately began to act, and she wonders what she is trying to find out. The system alert says that this is a dirty rumor, and the rumor is that the Marquise of the South Tellerus Brita is taking away from the palace the maids that suit his taste, and therefore understands what she wanted to do with this information. Rhea asks why she needs this and what benefit she will gain from destroying this gullible girl, and then tells her to answer. The system alert says that this is a useless weak point of Drazy Fran, and this is not a mistake, but such a minor weakness that it is considered a failure, and she only angered the princess, so she recommends never to mention it. At this time, the main character thought that she first saw the system window, revealing a weak spot when she was with Drazy on a picnic, and she thinks that someone blabbed about them, if because of her, this girl almost got into trouble. The princess asks if this girl is hers, an inanimate person, because she doesn't understand how she can do such a thing and thinks it's low. Uriel explains that she tried for her sake and wanted to earn her forgiveness and help her win her favor, because she knows that this aristocrat has real power in the south. The main character says that since it is for her sake, she will give her the opportunity to earn her forgiveness, and then says that she will go instead of Drazy. At this time, a woman enters the room and asks Uriel how she could leave her place, and realizes what she is doing. The princess looked at this lady and became interested in who she was. The chief maid of the imperial palace bows her head to Her Highness and informs her that she has shown disrespect and therefore asks for forgiveness. The head maid of the imperial palace personally stood up for Uriel, and then told the maid that no matter whose order she was following, she should have informed her that she was going to Her Highness's palace. The maid asks, Her Highness, if she is angry about this. Rhea asks in surprise what is going on here. System alerts say that this is the Emperor's interest, and to her that she stole 2 men from the princess and escaped her wrath. The Emperor has a strong interest, and he is going to get to know her, but while he is interested in the palace, no one will harm hers. The Emperor is very fickle, so she can easily bore him, and she needs to successfully conduct 6 random meetings while his interest lasts. A special route port will open for success in this quest. Enzo Cecilia. The young lady realized that the Emperor of this country himself was interested in her. The main character reminds that she asked the maid why she was here, and at that time, she thought that the special route, and this is the first time this has happened, and she became interested in what would happen if the Emperor united with Uriel. The princess assumes that he may decide to kill his own sister, and therefore understands that she should not sit back and wait for her end. The head maid apologizes for the disturbance, and the mistress says that she doesn't need her apologies, and if she came for Uriel, she won't let her go so easily, at least without due punishment. The maid asks Her Highness to calm down, and then says that she was carrying out His Majesty's order, and it was she who conveyed it, and therefore is ready to accept the punishment in her place. Hearing this, Rhea realized that this was nonsense, since the maid was trying to pull off the disclosure of a weak spot, and the Emperor could not be involved in this in any way. But if you believe the system notification, he is interested in Uriel. So the head maid shields her by using his name. The princess asks if she is saying that it is an order from the Emperor, and then asks if she is embarrassed by the contents of the note. The lady thought that she understood what Uriel was trying to do, but she still continued to stick to her guns. The headmaid says that she finds it difficult to understand His Majesty's meaning, but she is indifferent to the aristocrats on the outskirts, and thinks that maybe he was trying to establish relations with him on her behalf, and then reports that His Majesty expressed a desire to meet with this maid right away. The maid believes that he will decide what to do with her since she came to Her Highness's palace, despite the bonds. The princess screams and says that no matter whose order it is her palace, and it is up to her to decide what to do with the people in it. And then she says that she is going to the emperor, but until she returns, no one will move from this place. Her Majesty orders the guards to take this servant and guard her until she returns, and also not to take their eyes off her. The emperor turns to Rhea and says that this is a pleasant surprise. The main character looked at him and realized that everything had already been conveyed to him, and then asks if he wanted to see Uriel. Enzo thought for a moment, and then said that it was a shame, and asked if his secret mission upset her. Hearing this, the girl thought that this was a lie, because it was clear who was in charge of the headmaid, and now he was uncomfortable admitting the truth because of the fear of a quarrel with her. The princess says that Uriel will not come, and he asks if she is saying that she is disputing his order. And the lady says that in the future, this girl should not be here because she forbade her to approach her palace. Well, she broke the ban. Her Majesty says that this is considered treason, and only she follows the laws of the empire. The emperor tells her not to worry, and then tells her that he will not kill her, but asks her to revoke her order. The lady asks if he will claim that it was invented for her sake, and if he finds it busy to come up with such cunning orders. She wonders if he really needs this servant so much. His Majesty agrees with her and says that he will do as she says, and the lady says that she will then take her leave, and leaving asks if he is charmed by her. The main character knows that in the game, Uriel and the Emperor were supposed to have 6 random meetings, but she understands that now none of them will happen. The system notification says that she has entered the state of imprisonment, and the event of the Emperor's call was automatically cancelled because the Emperor had already changed. In the evening, the mistress tells the maid to report to her Hess reports that she received 7 lashes. Hearing this, the princess thought that it would hurt her to walk and sit for some time, and then asked how Drazy was. She answered that she was told to rest until tomorrow, and now she is in her room. Her Majesty says that she found out where Nadrika was now, and at that time she remembered what she told him to take good care of himself in the future. Rhea decided to visit this guy, and when he saw her, he asked in surprise what she was doing in his wretched home. The lady says that since he doesn't come to her, she came to him, and then takes him away, and says that it was so long ago, and thought about how he has a warm, soft scent, and then says that she missed him. The girl pushed the guy onto the bed and said that now she was waiting for an explanation of why he avoided her. And at that time, she looked at him as he became embarrassed and did not understand what was happening to him, because he always said that he wanted to be near her, but now it was as if he had distanced himself. Eldria offers to answer honestly why he avoids her. The guy claims that he would not dare to avoid Her Highness, and she reminds him that he has not visited her for several days. The young lady thought that because of Uriel, she herself was thinking of suggesting that they not meet for a while, but suddenly his feelings changed because she didn't look like a princess. Nadrika says that if he is a slave, he cannot desire anything. Hearing this, the lady asks why he again spoke about being a slave. He explains that he is happy only because he can please Her Highness. The guy says that this should be enough for him, and thinks that it would be impudent to show that he desires her. It is given that he may not come to the video room anymore, and at that time, she realized that she again involuntarily brought him to tears. He asks if she is angry, and the lady objects, and says that no, she is not angry. Eldria explains that she wanted to say that now she will come to him herself, and then asks what he will say to this. The guy says that he wants to hug her, and the girl also wants this, and then they hug each other and kiss. A man tells a lady that she was late for class today, and the girl says that he didn't even look at her once today. Rovia reports that he heard that she didn't sleep in her room last night, and asks if that's why she didn't show up on time. The princess asks if that's why he drinks until noon. He replies that how he entertains himself after work is none of her business, and that she shouldn't worry because he knows how to drink. The young lady reminds him that he recently broke into her bedroom and asks how much he drank. Then, the man remains silent in response, and she smiles and says that he was not such a bore then. Suddenly, the maid opens the door and screams as she addresses Her Highness, and then asks why she is sending her to another palace, and cries. The main character says that it is strange, because everyone here is crazy with fear and dreams of transfer, and then asks why she objects. Drazy fell to her knees and cried, and then said that she did not want to go to another palace, and asked if she could stay with Her Highness. The princess understands that what happened yesterday greatly shocked Drazy, and therefore she decided for her own good to transfer her to another palace, because she understands that anything can be expected from Uriel, so she should not be lost sight of. The main character realizes that she should keep her friends close and her enemies even closer, and then says that she can stay if she wants, because she does not hate her. The system notifications said that the state of confinement was cancelled, but the state of infirmity remained. Edson Valode went out to meet her, to take her to the room, but then she might miss the opportunity to discover the hidden event, and then asks if she will go with him. And the answer options are a refuse B, go together, C, ask to walk with her. Ria reflects on what she assumed that after leaving the dungeon, she would do something the notification asks where she will go. And the answer options, a palace garden, E, Emperor's bedroom, C, Uriel's room rose. The lady chose the palace garden. When the girl came into the garden, she turned around and saw the maid, and thought that no one had given her painkillers, and she could barely walk, but she thought that she should endure it, because it was too light a punishment for what she was going to do to Drazy. The princess thought that you were alarmed by the game notification that she saw earlier, that the emperor is very fickle, so she can easily bore him, and she needs to successfully conduct 6 random meetings while his interest lasts. The guard informs the lady that His Majesty has just headed to the garden, and at that time, the girl thought about how she had to go out in the middle of the night to scout everything out. Eldria understands that if necessary, she will have to prevent Uriel from clashing with the emperor, and she will arrange for them to collapse the system. Uriel wondered if the hidden event was a meeting with the princess, and then asked if she had come to finish her off. The main character asks in surprise why she would dirty her hands, and the maid says that she thought why she spared her, and then asks if it was because you don't want to quarrel with Prince Velod. Ria wonders if she thinks so, and therefore thinks that she can do whatever she wants. The maid asks what is holding her back, and also wonders if she is afraid that she will find out her secret. The princess comes closer to her and asks if she is afraid of her, and then says that let him just give her a reason, and if she sees that she deserves death, then get rid of her immediately, and therefore suggests that she think carefully before deciding on another baseness. Uriel says that he thanks Her Highness for her good advice, and the lady says that she will see how well she understood her words, and suggests that she disappear. The young lady reflects that he hopes that this was enough to prevent the maid's meeting with the emperor. The system notification congratulates her because the chance meeting was accomplished. The main character read that Uriel ran into the emperor while staggering Slag to her room. The emperor was confused. If she did not interest him, now he would avoid meeting her. And the answer options are a pretend not to recognize him, B, invite him to her room, C, pretend to faint. The girl chose to pretend that she had fainted, and the notification said that success and interest had increased. Raya thinks that of course who would pass by a girl who lost consciousness, but she can't imagine where this crazy speed of development of events comes from, and as if the emperor was ready to fall in love. The princess understands that she went out of her way to prevent their meeting, and when she read that the necessary level of interest was reached to open the route, she realized that all her efforts were in vain. The young lady is thinking that it is too early to give up, because there are still 5 meetings before the route is fully opened, and she wonders what if she should fight not with Uriel, but with those who are behind these system notifications. When the lady woke up, she realized that it was already morning, and she had again spent the night without sleep, and suddenly saw a bird, and then went up to it and asked where it came from. The girl saw that the bird had something tied to its leg, and when she took the note she said Aiden Frank. The maid asks in surprise if she just said Aiden Frank, and then says that she came to clean up. Ria asks if she knows this place. Dryden says that, of course she does, because it is a large guest house in the city, and she even spent the night there once when she left the palace on an errand. The main character looked at the note and thought that they were not afraid to send a postal bird directly to the princess's chambers and also secretly invite her to meet in the guest house outside the palace. And she thinks that if the system invites her, then she is obliged to go. Uriel since that night, but she understands that due to the high level of interest, Uriel has a lot of time for random meetings, and therefore she behaves more cautiously than usual. Sometimes system notifications about Edson pop up, but he returned the freedom and sword taken away by the previous princess, and the main character thinks that it is better not to mess with him anymore. Eldria thinks that it is good that the day of the meeting indicated in the message is tomorrow, because she understands that at least today she can breathe a sigh of relief. Drazy turns to Her Highness and says that she is very offended because strange rumors are circulating about the lady. Hearing this, Rhea thought that the princess who had acquired a bad reputation suddenly became more reserved, and it was difficult to imagine what the servants had come up with. The maid reports that they say she has her eye on women. Hearing this, the girl, while drinking tea, spat and asked if she was sure about it. The maid claims that she is sure of this because the maids constantly whisper that she communicates too closely with the girls. Drazy says that if she goes to them and wants to put in a word, they immediately fall silent and run away, and asks the lady if she can imagine herself doing this because she sees that the lady is working, devoting herself entirely to the affairs of the empire. At this time, the main character thought that the poor girl did not even understand what they were saying about her. The maid says that she cannot repeat such a thing, and the mistress asks, "What is the matter?" and also wonders whether she should call other maids and ask them. Drazy says that it is not necessary because she herself will say it, and then she says that they say that Her Highness is buying young slaves and that they will die before the end of the year. Hearing this, the princess says that she doesn't understand what this is about, and the maid agrees with her and says that this is some kind of nonsense. The system notification informs that the last prince of Velota and congratulates on the completion of the quest. This is the disclosure of a weak spot and a successful, scandalous rumor. Rhea realized that this was Uriel's evil tongue, and she understands why she is not surprised. But something worries her, and she is interested in whether this rumor is really unfounded. The young lady understands that the deadline is too specific for simple gossip. The end of the year is approaching, and it is already soon. The system notification congratulates the lady because she has successfully collected all the clues and asks to check the result now, and then reports that the stolen thing is in the princess's bedroom. The main character tells the maid that that's all for today, and she wants to rest, and at that time, she thought that these were the princess's dark deeds again, and she became interested in what and from whom she took. The girl thinks that it can't be that she took something from some servant and kept it in her bedroom, and she wonders if this is the very secret that Uriel shouldn't have gotten to the bottom of. Rhea doesn't understand that if those rumors about the princess are true, and she is the only one who doesn't know about it, and Uriel with her gossip made everyone remember what is really going on. Uriel ultimately wanted. The lady reflects on the fact that it is already clear that her goal is to lead the princess to ruin, and that for this she needs the strength and support of the key figures of the game of reactionaries who are dissatisfied with the existing authorities. If Uriel lures them to his side, the princess will lose everything including her life, and even if she is the only heir to the throne, this is possible if the majority of aristocrats become against her, and then any slightest reason will be enough to carry out a coup. The main character understood why rumors and searches for a weak spot were needed, and why Uriel seduced the princess's men, ideal candidates for the role of witnesses. System alerts report that unexpected Questiclot Face enters the capital leading a victorious march. In the letter he sent, he asks her for personal information about the Princess of Eldria, but it is her will to answer him, "A skip, B do not skip." Rhea realized that Iclot Faces returns the man who corresponded with Uriel and collected information about the princess. The girl does not understand whether she will be able to miss and avoid a new threat. The maid turns to Her Highness and asks if she called her. She offers her to come up and asks Drazy in surprise why she is in her outerwear and if she wants to go for a walk again. The lady informs that she is going outside the palace while she is gone. Then Drazy must make sure that no one enters. The girl came to the house and thought that this was the place indicated in the message, and this is the Aiden Frank Inn. The woman meets the lady and greets her, and then asks for forgiveness for calling her here in such a disrespectful manner, and then says that she followed her. At this time, the main character thought that if she hadn't shown up today, who knows how else they would have tried to contact her, because she believes that sooner or later they could have revealed themselves, and she must see with her own eyes who they are and what dark deeds connect them with the princess in order to understand what to do with this next. The lady with green hair tells the owner that she brought her, and the gentleman screams and says that it is an honor for him and that he hasn't seen her for a long time, and then asks if she has probably been waiting for her for a long time. Ria doesn't understand what's going on here, and then asks if it's not dangerous to meet in broad daylight. He says that's the point because during the day, there are a lot of people on the streets, so it's easy to get lost in the crowd, knowing how fierce the guards are these days, especially at night. The princess says that he was not chatting and got down to business. The man smiled and said that, judging by her tone, she had already run out of medicine and must have suffered greatly. Hearing this, the main character was surprised, and he says that even if she insists he is powerless to change anything and therefore suggests not to worry, because their guys were supposed to deliver him to the palace. The man asks if she knows that everything should happen in accordance with the policy and the company, because they send messages, and she comes at the specified time. Ria reflects on the fact that the princess has enormous power, and if she needed the medicine so much, she could easily get her hands on it. But everything is not so simple, because the supply is organized secretly, and if the supplier is exposed, the princess remains in the shadows. The girl thought that they called her to this place to get a receipt for payment, and judging by his words, the princess is constantly dependent on drugs, and therefore she believes that the princess's weak point is drugs. Eldria thought that since she had been in this body, she had managed without them. I think she was lucky that the princess's addiction had not been passed on to her, and she doesn't understand whether this is also a system error. The man asks her if she would like to see the newly arrived children, and then orders her to bring them. Young men with chains on their feet enter the room. The gentleman wonders what is going on, and asks the lady if she hasn't found anyone to her liking. At this time, the main character realized that this rumor was true, and then asks what origin these slaves have. He answers that they are velo. The princess bought everyone after the word velid, and she wanted to refuse the offer of this scoundrel at that very second. But she could not leave these innocent children to die. But she understands that she needs to think about what to do with them next. The man turns to the lady and tells her to move away, because the view is blocking his view. Hearing this, the girl does not understand what the commotion is about, and she wonders why there is a crowd of people on the street early in the mornings. Suddenly, the main character heard a cry that the nightly order of their empire had returned, and Ria realized that they were already here, and she thought that they would arrive only tomorrow. The crowd screams and says that the hero who brought them victory is Iklat Physis, and they joyfully greet their winner. At this time, the princess realized that she needed to urgently run to the palace because she had to be there before this man appeared. The maid tells the master that he cannot enter the princess's chambers, and he asks in surprise why, and also wonders if she said that she does not want to see him. Iklat asks the head maid if the mistress has ordered anything to be conveyed to him. The assistant turns to the master and asks if he can then go to an audience with the emperor, since he is waiting for him. Iklat objects and claims that first, he wants to see Her Highness. But at this time, the assistant thought that it was generally impossible to persuade him. The gentleman says that he must personally make sure that everything is okay with his mistress. Hess screaming tells him to stand still, because His Highness did not give orders regarding him. Iklat orders that she be informed that he has arrived, and then asks if all of Her Highness's confidants are so incompetent, since he believes that entrusting the care of her to such people is incomprehensible. The master orders everyone to move aside, and then steps into the room to the mistress. He asks Her Highness if she's okay, and then turns to the maid and tells her not to stand there like a pillar, but to open the door for him. Drazy says in fear that she cannot do this without Her Highness's permission, and the master orders her to open it, because he will not repeat it again. At this time the maid became very scared, because she does not understand where Her Highness is disappearing to, and when the maid opened the door, she saw the mistress lying in bed. At that time, the main character thought that she barely made it in time, and luckily, Drazy, who was nimble, quickly changed her clothes. Eclat kneels and greets Her Highness, and then says that he is pleased to report that her orders have been carried out. Hearing this, the main character thought that it was him that the princess wanted to get rid of by sending him to war. But he was a man who did not die and returned as a hero. The lady gives her hand, and he kisses her, and at that moment, she thought that she had never experienced anything like this, and now she understands that he is that very Iclot faces. The girl does not understand how he can kiss the hand of the woman who sent him to his death and then say that he is alive. And the man says that this is true because he returned to her. The princess thought that she had never met a man with such a determined and powerful look, and then said that it was good that he had returned. In the evening, Nadrik looked at the lady and does not understand what is wrong with her, and then asks if she is upset about something. She asks if she looks like this, and then suggests that he not worry, because she was just thinking a little. The guy says that he heard that this man is back in the palace, and also wonders if he offended her in any way. She objects and says that there is nothing like that. At this time, the girl thought that having got into this game, she was most afraid of the Iclot. Information about him was contradictory, and it was completely impossible to understand what kind of person he was. But she assumed that he had every reason to hate the princess. Rhea thought that maybe she was wrong, because when she met him in person, she didn't feel any hatred or contempt in him, but she wondered if she could trust him. Eclat informs the lady that there is a traitor in the palace, and he must be exposed as soon as possible. Hearing this, the main character does not understand who he means, because there are a lot of dangerous people here, and Eclat asks to let him take this task upon himself. Her Majesty asks what he is going to do, and the man clearly answers that there is a traitor in the palace, and he would like to expose him, but he needs her permission. At this time, the girl thought about what she asked him, what he would do with the traitor, when he caught him, and did not understand what to answer him. But she became interested in whether it was possible that this was a new intrigue conceived by him together with Uriel. Rhea reflects that it looks like she will never find out anything if she doesn't agree with him now, and then says that he should do as he wants. The man says that he will immediately start searching. The main character thought that now she is in a dangerous situation, and rumors about buying slaves that turned out to be true about drug use. But she understands that if Iclot takes her side, the situation could change radically. Eldria asks Nadrico what he knows about Aiden Frank. Hearing this, he asks in surprise what she is talking about, and the lady says that then maybe he knows where she secretly went from the palace before losing her memory. The guy says that he knows, because sometimes she went to get medicine, but he doesn't know where. The lady asks if he took them with her. The young man objects and says that she didn't give them to him. Hearing this, the lady thought that at least one piece of good news, and the guy offers her to listen to the fact that today, their lips have never touched. Hearing this, she kisses him. Raya tells the young man how good it is that he exists, because he is her consolation. And at that time, she thought that when she sees him, her worries disappear. However, she would like to quickly find out what Eclat has planned. The next day, Iclot approaches Her Highness and says that he has evidence that she was spreading personal information about her. Hearing this, the lady thought that it must be one of the letters that Uriel sent him. The man says that he ordered the knights to check the notes made by the servants, and after checking the handwriting, it turned out that it was her. Eclat is reported to have been trying to get close to him as Her Highness's concubine for a long time, and apparently, she wanted to use him to harm her and also gave out information about her. Hearing this, Uriel screams and says that he himself asked her, and the master says that as soon as she orders it, he will immediately execute her. Hearing this, the princess was surprised, because he wants to finish off Uriel. She understands that until this day, she had many opportunities to get rid of Uriel, but until now she managed to deal with her without bloodshed. The lady understands that in addition, despite her machinations and treachery, she cannot finish off Uriel because it is unknown what will happen to this game after her death. Because she understands that with her death, the game will end, and she will be stuck in this world forever. The main character does not understand why not a single system notification warned Uriel that she would be captured and brought to the princess for interrogation, and she began to wonder if this situation was not planned by the game. Eclat turns to Her Highness and asks what worries her and who she is afraid of, and then promises that there will be no peace for the one who brings chaos to her soul, and then swears that he will relieve her of any anxiety, even if it is absurd or inexplicable, and he will take on any responsibility. Hearing this, the girl thought that it was incredible, because she didn't expect that he would do anything for her, and her soul suddenly felt so calm. The man claims that he will protect Her Highness and let her trust him, because she is his mistress for whom he is ready to give his life. Eldria informs Uriel that she is banished from the palace forever. Upon hearing this, the maid turns to Her Highness and asks to allow her to justify herself because she wants to explain everything. The princess says to make a description of her and pass it on to the guards so that they do not let her into the palace under any circumstances. Uriel turns to Eclot and screams, asking why he is doing this to her, since she has endured so much because of him. At this time, the main character looked at her and thought that she deserved all this, but her heart felt that this would not end. System notification informs that the border knight has failed the quest, and a penalty has been set for the route Eclot. Faces is completely closed, because a bad reputation appeared and she was expelled from the palace, but the state of exile remains. Rhea thinks that this was definitely the decisive moment. Eclot asks Her Majesty if he can ask her a question. Well, a knight enters the room and addresses His Majesty, and then asks for forgiveness, because he did not know that he was with His Highness the Princess. The young lady asks what His Majesty asked to convey. He says that he was ordered to immediately bring Mr. Iclot, because many aristocrats have been waiting since yesterday to greet him. Hearing this, the main character realized that the Emperor was probably informed that Iclot had captured Uriel, and understood that soon it would be known about her exile, so there was no point in delaying this moment, and then ordered to go to His Majesty, because she will be ready to listen to him at any time. You can inform us that he will return to her as soon as he finishes his business, and will try to do it as quickly as possible. 2 days later, the maids discuss the fact that Her Highness kicked Uriel out of the palace, and another says that she heard that after that they quietly got rid of her, and they became interested in whether the princess had taken up her old ways again. The maid believes that people are fickle, especially she, and therefore tells her to do what she is told and not to get into trouble, otherwise she will lose her head. Eldria screams and asks the maids what kind of abomination they brought her, and also asks if they call it food. The maid turns to Her Highness and claims that these are her favorite dishes. The lady screams and asks how they dare to justify themselves, and then tells them to leave because she doesn't want to see anyone. When the girl was left alone, she wondered if she had played convincingly enough, because she wanted to pretend that she was going through withdrawal and wanted this to work out because this was the best thing she could come up with. Rhea reflects on the fact that she had no intention of harming anyone, but she simply had no other way, and she needs to find out where the drugs are hidden, because she is sure that there is a person in the palace responsible for them, but he has not contacted her. The main character understands that it is impossible to figure him out, so she had to play a comedy so that he would come out himself. Suddenly, the girl heard someone come in and thought that he had finally appeared, but she wondered who he was. Hess suggests that the lady take them quickly, and seeing this, the lady is surprised and asks where she hides them. The maid informs Her Highness that if she takes more than the daily norm, the princess informs her that everything needs to be hidden and moved outside the palace so that no one will find out. The maid reports that her request will be fulfilled as soon as possible. Raye became interested in how Drazy was doing, because of course she told her to stop spying if the situation took a dangerous turn. The young lady does not understand whether she can be sure that Hess is completely devoted to her, because now all that remains is to wait whether she will fulfill her assignment. The girl thought that by expelling Uriel from the palace, she had gained some time to search for the thing that was mentioned in the system notifications, and that this was the stolen thing from the princess's bedroom, and her attempt to prevent Uriel from meeting the emperor had failed. And she believed that, without a doubt, the system was warming up the main character, and would not be surprised if she returned soon. Eldria reflects on the fact that she must therefore deal with this problem as quickly as possible. When the lady saw the Nadrik, she asked what he wanted, and the guy immediately ran up and hugged her. She asked in surprise what happened. The young man reports that it is very good that Her Highness is not under the influence of drugs, because he was afraid that she would again. At this time, the main character remembered that when last night she asked him about the secret deeds of the former princess, He seemed worried to her. The lady understands that he was worried that, under the influence of drugs, she would become like before, and thought that while Uriel is not in the palace, perhaps she can allow herself to relax a little, and then asks the guy if he will sleep in her room today. At night, the girl does not understand what strange sounds, and saw that Nadrika turned away from her, and does not understand whether this is really what she thinks, and then asks the guy what he is doing. The young man fearfully asks Her Highness if she is asleep, and then says that he will explain everything, and that she simply did not want to, and he decided to do it himself. The guy says that Her Highness hugged him in his sleep, and that was enough to make him flare up, and then explains that it's hard for him to restrain himself around her and be patient. The girl asks him to wait, and then asks why he is holding himself back. He explains that they have not had full intimacy since she lost her memory. Nadrika reports that the mistress has become more constrained with him, and he is a slave for bed pleasures, so he could not be persistent. The lady asks if he has decided that she has cooled towards him. Rhea reflects on what he says about being patient, but she understands that in order to do this, she had to constantly restrain herself, despite the fact that she passionately desired intimacy with him, but was afraid that she could reopen the wounds that the previous princess inflicted on him, so she did not give free rein to her feelings. The girl tells him that she loves and wants him, and then tells him not to hold back, and not to call Her Highness anymore, but simply Rhea. And then they did it. The next morning, the guy approaches the lady and tells her that she shouldn't skip breakfast, and then kisses her. The main character asks if he has forgotten his promise from yesterday, and he objects and calls her Rhea. The princess reminds that they agreed that when they were alone, he would call her Rhea, and she knew that she would have to remind him in the morning, and then calls him a bad boy. Nadrika explains that he is just not used to it yet, and she says that if he forgets again, he will suffer a terrible punishment. Hearing this, the guy excitedly asks if she is laughing at him. The young lady understands that no matter what he calls her, it is still better than Her Highness, but she did not even think that it is not so pleasant for him when he pronounces her name. The maid asks Her Highness if she is awake, and then informs her that Sir Eclat Faces wants to meet her. She says, "Let him come in, guy's time." Thought about the fact that he came back, and he is clearly a difficult character, and therefore she cannot ignore him. Nadrika asks the lady if she wants him to leave, and she replies that he should stay, and then wishes good morning to the gentleman who at that time entered the room. Eclat greets the princess and asks if she slept well, and hopes that he did not interrupt her sleep, and then asks if he did. The lady says that everything is fine because she hasn't slept for a long time, and then says that if he could disturb her, she wouldn't let him in. He says that he is immensely happy, and at that time, the girl thought that you can see from his face how happy he is. The man says that he thought he heard someone coughing in the bedroom, but the lady objects, and says that no one coughed because everyone is healthy. Raya understands that no matter how fantastic and unrealistic this world may be, lying in bed with one lover and accepting another man devoted to her is an extraordinary situation. The princess saw that he didn't even bat an eyelid, as if he was used to this state of affairs, and then asked what he wanted to talk about. Eclat reports that he has a request for Her Highness. 7 years ago, Eclat, the only son of the late Marquis, gained great fame by defending the state borders. He proved himself to be a subtle diplomat and a talented commander. For the first time in the history of the empire, the Marquis became the captain of the Imperial Knightly Order and the main support of the ruling family. From the members of parliament in the capital to the lower aristocrats on the outskirts of the country, no one could ignore him. His appearance was a breath of fresh air in the stagnant political swamp, and there was no one in the capital who did not know his name. This caused discontent among the emperor, who could no longer turn a blind eye to his ever-growing political influence. But despite the emperor's opposition, his noble origins, high moral qualities, impeccable reputation, and the post of commander of the Imperial Knightly Order made Icarus the leader of new political forces who could lead his country into the future. At the banquet in honor of the princess's 18th birthday, she said that they were choosing him as a gift. And suddenly, Her Highness pointed to Sir Face, and at that moment, everything changed. The Marquis said that he would serve Her Highness once, and knelt down. The political circles in which he had previously taken an active part ceased to exist, and everyone thought that the thirst for power had blinded him. But he succumbed to the emperor's daughter and forgot about the pride of an aristocrat. The aristocrats who once revered him began to treat him with contempt, but despite the slander and attacks, Eclat remained on the side of the princess, being her most loyal and reliable protector. 6 months later, the emperor declared war on the kingdom of Borna. Iclophaces was appointed captain of the vanguard troops. He set off on a long journey without a single mage, taking only ordinary soldiers with him, and the princess did not even come out to see him off. People who in the past predicted a bright future for him as the leader of a new political force now unanimously predicted his imminent death. However, as if in mockery of their prophecies, the Eclat returned alive to his princess. The main character thought that it was not what the maid was thinking, and did not understand why she brought so much, because she thought it was too much for breakfast. Drazy said that she would not disturb them. Eclat asks the princess why she doesn't drink tea, and she asks why he doesn't drink it, because this tea is good for fatigue. At this time, the girl thought that he wanted to ask her about something, and he didn't even know where to start the conversation. The main character knows that he helped her drive out Uriel, but she still doesn't understand what drives him, and then asks if he was injured. The gentleman says that he has gotten into some dangerous scrapes, but it is hardly worth her attention. The lady asks what kind of scrapes he has had, and offers to tell her. Eclat reported that once during an enemy attack at night, he received a couple of cuts on his neck, but as he saw his head remained intact. Hearing this, the girl thought that he was talking about this as if nothing had happened, and then asked if he thought about her when he was at war, and at that time she thought that she needed the truth about how he felt about her. Rhea ponders that, even if it is hatred and a thirst for her death, it would be easier for her to know his true feelings. However, she wonders if he could not harbor at least some resentment towards the woman, because of whom he lost everything and almost died. The man reports that he was wondering when she sent him to war what she really wanted, and it was for him to return victorious, or to give his life for her. However, everyone was convinced of the latter, and believes that Her Highness's order was not to die but to fight. Eclat says that he came back to get an answer. Hearing this, the main character understood what was tormenting him, but she thinks that it is so simple, and does not understand why she could not guess about it, since she knows that the princess sent him to his death. The ruthless Eldrin could only have one answer, for a man who would carry out any order she gave him without hesitation, and that was the answer he expected from the princess. The lady asks if she will say that she wanted him to die with honor, and at this time she became interested in how he will act now, and asks what he feels, anger or resentment, and also wonders if he did not hate her. The man says that nothing, and she asks in surprise why he is like that and became her concubine. The girl thought that if he had wanted to refuse, he could have done so at any moment. In the disputes with the emperor, the aristocrats would have taken his side, but he did not resist and immediately fell before the princess. Eclat claims that being on guard for the welfare of the imperial family has always been his primary duty. The men greet Her Highness, and she asks which part is empty. He says it's in the 5th reading room. The lady says that she wants to read a book in silence and asks to watch them so that no one comes in. The man says that then he will take her, and she objects and says that it is not worth it, and then leaves. The worker realized that he had made a mistake because there was a person in the 5th reading room, and it turned out that he had deceived Her Highness, and therefore he thought that he needed to say goodbye to his head. Rovia, while in the library, thought that these books would be enough for the next lesson. But suddenly, he heard someone's footsteps, and he became interested in who it was, because they seemed to say that there was no one here. At this time, the main character says that no one is watching her, and that is why she lives, because she thinks that this is the best place to calm down and collect her thoughts. Well, she doesn't even know where to sit down. The man saw Her Highness, and he doesn't know whether he should come out and greet her. The girl says that he is unbearable, and does not understand how one can be so impenetrable, and does not even know whether he is really like that or pretending. The young lady reflects on the fact that she did not sleep at all last night, and that makes her feel tired, and also on this strange conversation. Eclat turns to Her Highness and says that he wants to tell her something, because news has reached him that the servants have become so insolent that they dared to touch her concubine, and therefore he asks to allow him to carry out their execution. The lady objects and says that she forbids this to be done, and then says that not even a couple of days have passed since his return, and he already imagines that he has an idea about everything that is happening in the palace. Hearing this, the gentleman says that there is no way, and the lady says that she decided to deal with this on her own, and therefore suggests that he not get involved in this matter. Eclat believes that the encroachment on people belonging to Her Highness is a direct insult to the imperial family, and these people should be punished as an example to others. He believes that it is necessary to carefully ensure that something like this does not happen again, because these are necessary measures to maintain power and strengthen the position of the imperial family. Rhea thought that he was not at all concerned about the fact that Nadrik had suffered, and he only wanted to preserve the authority of the crown, and for this murder was a necessary measure. The lady says that it is wrong to take such measures. The man says that whether it is right or not does not matter, because the only important thing is that she needs it. Eclat claims that such is the order, and that dissenters are sent to the scaffold without delay, and the faithful are rewarded for their loyalty. The man says that Uriel has committed treason against her, the emperor's sister. The princess says that she has already been expelled from the palace, and then asks if that is not enough. The Marquis asks, what if this woman finds out her weak spot, and then says that only she should order, because he will quietly solve this problem. The main character wonders if it is unfair that she did not execute these people and Uriel, but sent his loyal man to the crown to certain death. The lady says that she didn't do anything to this stupid girl, but simply drove her away and asks if he thinks it's suspicious. Eclat replies that nothing of the sort, and then says that it seems his emotions are preventing him from thinking clearly, but he won't be able to be her ideal protector if she continues to hide things from him, and asks for forgiveness if he was too harsh. The girl thought that he was also reacting because of emotions, and she did not expect this, but she understands that Uriel is not a simple palace servant for her because she is the only thread connecting her with the past, and the furious zeal of Eclat to kill her is too suspicious. Eldria asks if he is ready to do anything if she orders him. He answers that yes. She says that she admitted that she wanted him dead, and he even agrees with this and asks if that is true. The man claims that he is just doing what he has to do, and the lady reports that he speaks as if he thinks it is normal, and also wonders if he is amused by the prospect of losing his life because of her whim. Eclat states that being a vassal to the imperial family implies unquestioning loyalty, and he has no reason to doubt her decisions, and then claims that he is being completely honest with her about this. Hearing this, the girl became interested in whether he himself understood what he was saying, because she wanted to apologize to him instead of the previous princess, and whatever the reason she believed that the order given to him was unfair. Raya thinks that he apparently believes what he says, and therefore she has nothing to ask him for forgiveness for, and says that she no longer wants to hear about their punishment, and suggests leaving. He believes that since this is His Highness's wish, he will take his leave for today. The princess reflects on the fact that she is not the one to whom he dedicated his devotion, and for whom he agreed to risk his life in the war. But this thought makes her anxious, because she understands that one day he will draw his sword and point it at her. The girl thought that for some time she planned to pretend to be the former princess, but now it seems to her that she cannot avoid the fate of the main antagonist of the game. And for now, she has no choice but to continue to defend her position as a princess as before. The young lady opened the book and remembered that in class, her teacher had said that this book contained the information she needed, and if she was not mistaken, it could help her. Rovia approached the princess, and he became curious about what she had been reading for so long, because Her Highness had come to study in the library herself, and this reminded him of something. The man thought about the fact that not long ago, he was a Rovia Zuran, being an official, was able to obtain a high position in the service. The gentleman told the boy to remember that unlike other library directors, the books for which he is responsible are available only to the imperial family, and if it were not for his origins, he could have achieved a higher position if he considers it a pity, and also suggests that he work hard in his new position. For centuries, high-ranking aristocrats and their children, associates and houses associated with these concentrated all power in their hands. Such not very noble aristocrats from the provinces like him did not have the opportunity to achieve high positions. The guy does not understand what is the point of talents if they are not used. and so he is stuck in this place without the opportunity to reveal himself. The man gradually became bored with his work, and on one of those dreary days, the princess saw him and said that she was glad to meet him. This whispering voice called him by name, but he belatedly opened his eyes, and there was no one in front of him, and this was his first meeting with her. Rovia turns to Her Highness, and then says that it would be awkward if anyone saw her sleeping, so he decided it was better to wake her up. At this time, the main character thought that she hoped that she hadn't muttered anything strange, and the guy was thinking about how he wanted to kiss Her Majesty while she was sleeping, and didn't understand what had come over him. The gentleman asks the princess if she often visits the library. She answers that not often, but sometimes she comes, and at that time she thought that it was in vain that she relaxed, and thinks that from now on she will behave carefully, even here. Rovia asks if she remembers how they met here in the library, because it was quite a long time ago. Hearing this, the girl does not understand how she can know, because she does not have the memories of the former princess, and does not know what she should answer him. The princess says that she has forgotten something, and he asks what about their first meeting at the lake, and whether she really doesn't remember that either, and also wonders if she didn't say something about the lake being very beautiful. Rhea claims that she remembers the lake, and at that time, she thought that she couldn't continue saying that she doesn't remember anything, and thinks that she needs to quickly change the subject before his questions become a problem. The main character says that she is hungry and asks if he will join her for lunch. Rovia, sitting at the table, says that he thought they would be alone, and the lady says that she thought it would be wonderful to have lunch together. And at that time, she realized that she had completely forgotten that she had already invited Nedrika, and thinks that she should not take her words back. However, she did not expect that there would be such a tense atmosphere between these two. The princess says that she has been thinking about it for a while, and turns to Rovia, and says that he should learn to behave more kindly with others, because she understands that he starts to get angry even when there is no reason for it, and suggests working on it. Rhea asks Nadrik if it is true, and then says that he thinks so too. The Marquis says that this is enough and offers to eat. At this time, the main character remembered that her first impression of Rovia was not very pleasant, but when she got to know him better, she realized that he is much better than he might seem at first glance, and is simply often rude without reason. But she understands that this is quite in his spirit. And although it is quite nice, the lady realized that the atmosphere was getting heated, and Nedrika must have gotten scared. And then she said that she wanted to ask something, and wondered if the two of them had had a fight. Rovia asks in surprise why he would bother himself like that, and the lady says that this is a common thing in a harem, and says that this is a rivalry between favorites. The gentleman asks to be allowed to find out, since when he is his equal, and whether she thinks this is too much. Rhea asks Nadrik in surprise if he is really jealous, and then says that he is charming. The princess asks Hess how those who touch the Nedrika are doing. She replies that they are being quiet and trying not to attract attention, but there is a rumor among the palace servants that Her Highness spared their lives because she wanted to watch them suffer. The main character says that she understood, and then tells the maid Hess that she can be free today because in order to change clothes, she only needs one drezis. The girl reflects on the fact that she didn't need their lives at all, but let them continue to think that she was mocking them so that they wouldn't do it again. Drazy informs Her Highness that as she ordered, Hess hid all the medicines outside, and before that they were in the kitchen storage room, and believes that she has nothing to worry about. Rhea looked at the maid and thought that she was like a puppy who wants to be praised, and then says that it is a good job. In the evening, lying in bed, the princess thought that she had sorted out the drugs, but she did not understand where to look for this thing. And in words, it was simply in the bedroom, but she understood that there was more than 1 or 2 bedrooms in the palace, and no matter how she looked, she could not find it. The lady reflects on the fact that after she saw the clue, she rummaged through the princess's bedrooms every day, trying not to be seen by others, but did not find anything special, and understands that Nedrika cannot say that it was Drazy either. Rhea doesn't know what to do and how much strength she has left, because she understands that she kicked Uriel out of the palace, but she doubts that this will be the end of it. The noisy game notifications that popped up almost every day no longer appear, and for now she has gotten rid of this threat, but is stuck in this world and lives under someone else's guise, continuing to lie to everyone, and she became interested in who would side with a person like her. The man asks the commander what he just said, because in the middle of the night, they called him to the training ground and stunned him with such a statement. The guy asks the captain in surprise if he is serious about wanting him to entertain this crazy woman, because he is that same little street kid who almost died from poverty among the robbers. Seeger reports that despite discrimination and neglect, he joined the nightly order and became its deputy, and then asks if he understands what he is offering him. The guy asks if he's crazy because he achieved so much that he ended up becoming a prostitute. The captain tells him to calm down and listen to him carefully, and tells him to remember and not do anything that could attract attention. But he must silently endure everything and do what she orders him to do. The captain suggests pretending that he obediently obeys because he heard that she cuts off the head of those who resist without trial and asks them to think about saving themselves. And he also lived as if he agreed with the imperial order. The gentleman claims that all that is required of him is to be patient for a while, and he promises that he will definitely get him out. The guy says that he thinks that this country has gone crazy. The captain asks for forgiveness and kneels down and then says that he is sorry. The next day, the Seeger collected his things and told the captain that he lied to him because he promised to help him out, and then asked if he said this to get rid of him. At this time, the servants thought that he was lucky because he got out of that damn brothel of the princess. The guy doesn't know what to say because even he was shocked when the lady said that she was going to disband this nightly detachment in the shortest possible time. Cigar reflects on the fact that at some point, it even seemed to him that there was a completely different person in front of him. He understands that he has no idea what happened, but he thinks that it is a great success that the princess decided to disband them. The young man believes that this time she did the right thing, because who knows what will come into her crazy head again. Cigar came to the captain and asked if he was waiting for him. The man was happy to see him and said that he was a good man because he came back. He reminds that the captain promised to rescue him. The guy says that he has returned, although he understands that he will have to start everything from scratch. He asks if he has been demoted and therefore offers to send him to some quiet and peaceful place, and this could be some province. Cigar says that warriors are heartless people because he almost died in an unequal battle with a prostitute princess, and no one sympathizes with him. The guy understands that the knight who abandoned his comrades about the whims of the princess, and he did not expect that the members of the order, for whom the honor and pride of the knight are in the first place, would accept him with open arms, and especially since from the very beginning he was like a thorn in their side. Cigar says that he has already gotten used to such treatment because he knows that this can be expected from a commoner like him, and after he became the captain's favorite, everyone turned away from him completely and was just waiting for the moment to gloat. The captain says that maybe she has calmed down now, but there is no guarantee that her madness will not return again. The young man wonders where he will be sent, and the captain says that he can stay because he was appointed to guard outside the palace. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise if this is the same one who patrols those towers with spires. A few days later, the boys ask the mistress if they can come in. She says that they have been washed and fed, and now at least look like people. Then the mistress tells the maid to prepare them for training as palace servants. The princess says that they must be interested to know why they were brought here, and then says that she wants them to try to get used to this place and adapt to the local order as soon as possible. The lady says that she gives them the opportunity to live in this palace and work honestly. The guy asks in surprise why Her Highness left them. Rhea promises that she will make every effort to ensure that nothing bad happens to them. Rovia entered the room and asked her if she thought she was acting like a child because she thought it was unwise to buy slaves just out of sympathy, and then said that, first of all, it was illegal. The princess asks if he criticized her just now. He wonders where the criticism is here, and the lady says that she did not forbid him to express his opinion, but let him not be impudent because she had her own reasons. It hasn't even been 10 years since slaves were banned by law, but judging by the fact that the imperial family has no intention of arresting anyone, it is still widespread, and starting from her, everyone in the imperial palace is engaged in it. Rovia reports that he believes that the Easterners are vellowed. Hearing this, the lady is surprised and says that he is a jack of all trades. At this time, the maid reports that something bad has happened, and then says that one of the palace maids hanged herself, and one of the palace servants, who dared to touch her concubine, tried to commit suicide by hanging herself from the chandelier. Hess says that since they were watching the palace today, on her orders, fortunately, they were able to find her in time, and now her life is not in danger. At this time, the princess thought that it was good that she had taken precautions, because she had received reports, but after talking with the Eiklot, she increased her surveillance of what was happening in the palace. The main character understands that if it weren't for her decision, that Maid could have been found dead the next day. Drazy asks Her Highness if everything is okay with her, and the lady asks if she looks okay. Raya thinks that this is the princess's new entertainment, and she is deliberately torturing them. And once she has had her fill of their suffering, she will kill each one without blinking an eye. And she understands that this is how she looks in the eyes of the palace servants. The lady reflects on the fact that she knew about these rumors, but did not stop them because she hoped that, out of fear of death, they would not cross the line of what was permitted again. However, it did not end with just rumors, and everything came to the point that the objects of the gossip that arose began to be subjected to general contempt and persecution, and as a result, these servants were separated from the rest, and this was inevitable. Among the persecutors, there were those who were so cruel that they decided to exclude them from their society forever. This continued until one young maid, who on orders from the senior servants was watching them on time, and their dirty deeds attempted suicide. The princess turns to Hess and says that in addition to those who are assigned to work outside the palace, let him catch and bring to her everyone who is connected with this and past incidents. The maid reports that some of the maids tried to escape at night, and the mistress says that she never thought that the palace was in such a mess. Hess reports that as she ordered, they caught everyone who was involved in both incidents. For these, they believe that it was her mistake, because it is impossible to leave things as they are. The girl thinks that this time she must act based not on what is right, but on what is necessary. Iklot thought that it couldn't be that Her Highness had decided to punish them. He turned to the servants and said that today, for their crime, their right wrist would be cut off, and the wounds would heal over time, and the pain would be forgotten. The princess says that every time they look at the severed wrist, they will remember the crime they committed again and again. And then she claims that this is their retribution, and after medical assistance, she will throw them out of the palace. Her Majesty reports that in addition to this, their accomplices will be punished with 7 lashes and also expelled from the palace. Iklot, hearing this, thought that he had noticed from the very beginning that Her Highness was behaving differently than before, but he thought that perhaps it was because she had been left without his protection for a long time. Drazy looked at the gentleman and said that recently she said that she wanted to be alone, and perhaps now in the garden. The young master does not understand what he should say when he sees Her Highness, because he is drawn to talk to her, but he cannot find a suitable reason for conversation. Iklot thinks that all he can do is wander around pointlessly looking for her, and when he saw the lady, he greeted her, and she says that in the end he was right. The guy suggests that she not take everything to heart, and she says that she knew he would say that. The princess reminds him that he said it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, and then asks what he thinks about her punishing them. Iklot assures the lady that she is right, and the lady asks why, and then says, because they got retribution for treating the crown with disdain, or she is right that she decided to get rid of unwanted people by provoking them to commit a crime, and then asks if that is not the case, and that the gentleman says that he does not see the difference, and at this time does not understand what she wants to say. The lady believes that in the first case it is certainly their fault, and in the second case, the blame can be placed on anyone, even on the emperor. Hearing this, Iklot gets down on his knees and asks the lady not to do this. The main character thought that she always considered it terribly unfair to blindly follow the authority of power, and not what is right. But she understands that Iklot is the person who, if he obeys, someone will devote himself entirely to him, and therefore thinks that she should try to talk to him. The princess says that she wants to ask him something, and also wonders if he will answer her question. Rhea says that when the means to achieve the goal turns out to be wrong, it needs to be corrected. Otherwise, you can act differently and find a new means. The girl says that one should remember the goal, and if it is initially wrong, then no matter what method you choose, the result will be disastrous, and therefore she asks what means it will become wrong or new for her. The main character thought that perhaps this man would never change, so she decided that if the meaning of his life was to serve his master until death, then she would be his master. Eclat claims that he will gladly become her new vehicle and will follow her wherever she chooses. Siger is assigned to guard duty, and the main character asks what it means. The gentleman asks if she thought that upon his return, he would take his former place. The princess reminds him that he had stipulated that he was not only the youngest vice captain, but also the first commoner to achieve such a high position, and then asks where she was wrong. Rovia says that everything is correct, and he doubts that the one who took the place after him will kindly agree to return him. Because anyway, back in the days when he became vice captain, there were many dissatisfied people who said that his appointment was unheard of. The lady thinks that nothing is going as it should, but she wonders why she only finds out about these rumors now. The gentleman asks if she didn't pay attention to such things from the beginning. Rovia says that if Her Highness is disturbed with useless news, there is a risk of leaving the palace feet first, because she understands that there is nothing strange in the fact that those below her are wary of saying an unnecessary word to her. The maid tells the mistress that Sir Eclat has arrived, and she says that they told him to come in. Eclat greets the lady and then kisses her hand. He says that news has reached him that territorial negotiations with Rothschild are now headed by her. Her Highness and His Majesty has ordered him to advise her on military matters. Hearing this, the main character remembered that this really happened, and she wondered if the Emperor had specifically entrusted her with this task, and his true goal was to improve their relationship with Eclat. The princess says that it is not worth it because he is entitled to rest now, since he has only recently returned from an exhausting journey. And besides, she has more than enough Rovia in this matter now. The Marquise reports that for the first time, he sees a man who has less pride than he does, and Eclat reports that he believes that he meant to say not pride but conscience. Rovia asks in surprise what he is talking about, and the lady objects and suggests that they stop, and then says that she doesn't care whether they quarrel or not, but asks to choose a more suitable place and time. Eclat asked for forgiveness from Her Highness, and the main character thought that it was like a cat and a dog, and even the reactions were different. And then she asked if the captain of the knights would come to see her later. Eldria says that she also wants to tell him something, and now, as she sees it, the situation is not conducive to dialogue. The man says that he understands and will come to her in the evening. Rovia wonders why she has to talk to him alone, and then suggests that she was being direct, and asks what it is that he shouldn't know, and also wonders if she just doesn't trust him, because he cheated on her once. The man claims that if it is neither one nor the other, then he does not understand what these secrets are for, and then orders them to speak here and now. The lady screaming asks what's wrong with him today, and at that moment, she thought about not only what's wrong with both of them, but it's as if they've gone crazy because she understands that there was absolutely no reason to be so nervous, and they're behaving like children, and she thinks that then she'll have to calm them down. Rhea touches his hand and suggests that he calm down, and the guy turns to Her Highness and asks her not to let this man get close and not to trust him, and then asks if she understood what he told her. Eclat, hearing this, asks if he understands where he is and who he is talking to, since he believes that showing such disrespect is unforgivable. Rovia turns to Her Highness and asks if she will punish him, and at that time, the lady thought that he was cunning because he knew perfectly well what she would answer, and then said that this would not happen. The blonde man asks if he heard, and then claims that it doesn't concern him in any way, and therefore he can go free. Eclat turns to the lady and says that he insists on his punishment. Rovia reminds that Her Highness said that she is not against his behavior, and therefore suggests that he calm down already. The main character orders them both to go away. In the evening, the princess informs him that he is late, and the man asks for forgiveness. She says that there is no need to apologize, and first offers him to sit down. The lady thought that it seemed to her that the distance between them was less than usual, and at that time the man began to undress, and the girl did not understand what he was doing now, and then said that he was somehow strange. Eclat asks if she finds him awkward, and the lady says that it is not about that, But the man touches her lips, and she does not know what to do now. The gentleman asks if he can touch her. Highness hearing this, the girl is confused and asks if he is talking about a kiss, because she does not understand how it is possible so immediately without foreplay. Eclat laid the lady on the bed and then began to kiss her. She objects and pushes him away from her, and then says that it seems he misunderstood her, and asks if he is going to sleep with her now. Initially, Ria was afraid that he would want to despise her in revenge for the fact that the princess sent him to war. But in reality, it turns out that everything is different. The man claims that he is following her orders. She asks if this means that he is not doing this because he wants to, and also wonders if this is his desire. The gentleman claims that it is his duty as her concubine to humbly serve her highness, and if she did not like how he does it, then let her tell him, because he must take measures to be useful to his mistress. The princess objects and says that since it is so, it is not necessary, and he is interested because of what happened during the day, and then asks to believe him, since she will not find anyone more likely than him. Eldria says that this is not a lack of trust in him, because she believes that he deserves more, and if he himself does not want it, then she will not force him, because she really only called him to talk. The girl apologizes for misleading him, because she believes that he understood her proposals differently. Eclat thinks that she doesn't need to apologize, and asks what she wanted to say. And at that time, the girl thought that there was something to apologize for. And considering the antics of the previous princess, of course, he thought about it. The lady does not understand how she could so carelessly agree to meet in the evening, and does not even know why he had such a reaction. The man puts on his clothes, and the girl looks at him, and doesn't understand why she has such unpleasant sensations that it's impossible to describe in words. Eclat thinks that it is too late for conversation, and it would be better to meet another time and talk then. Ria grabs the guy's hand and asks him to wait, and then tells him to take care of himself. And at that time, she thought about whether she said it right, and then says that she liked that kiss. The man says that he understands her, and then leaves and wishes her good night. When the princess was left alone, she blushed with shame and thought that it was simply impossible to imagine anything worse, but she felt that she couldn't just let him go. The girl understands that she knows very well that a person who thinks only about debauchery will never become an outstanding ruler. She does not know how not to lose her head when so many seductive, handsome men are just asking to get into her bed. Ria thinks that even a normal person in her place would have involuntarily gone over to the dark side of lust and debauchery, but she understands that she needs to pull herself together because he is the person to whom Rovaya reacted especially sharply, and she does not think that this is simple jealousy because she must carefully find out everything. The captain turns to the Seeger and says that it's his shift time, and then asks if he's going to continue being lazy. The guy replies that he just started having a nice dream and hasn't had one for a long time, and since they woke him up, it means he'll go. The knight tells the guy that he needs to tell him something, and then says that he understands that he is offended, that he was demoted, but this is not a reason to be careless about the work of the squad. Seeger looked at him in surprise, and the knight said that perhaps their duties seemed trivial to him, but they were proud of what they did, and if in the future he would treat his service in the same frivolous manner, he would report this to his superiors. The man says that he respected him as a commoner, and the Seeger asks in surprise if this means that they don't respect him now, and then asks for forgiveness for disappointing him and pats him on the shoulder. The guy thought that he would not pay attention to them, but he did not understand what to do with this crazy woman, because he was told that now this woman was stalking him and constantly hiding and looking at him like a poor relative. Seeger thought that he would pretend not to notice her, because he became interested in whether this was some new game, and she did not approach him, but only watched him from afar, and at the same time made a pitiful expression on her face. The guy doesn't understand why, but it irritates him, because of course he knew that this woman was crazy, but he thinks that she's completely gone crazy because he doesn't know what she wants from him. The head maid tells the maids to hurry up, because everything needs to be prepared as soon as possible, and the curtains in the hall also need to be changed for new ones. The mistress asks if they have enough food for the banquet, and asks if they should replenish their supplies. Drazy thought that this was her first time preparing for such a celebration. Hess turns to her and says that he sees that she is in a good mood. The maid agrees with her and then tells her that tomorrow They will hold a banquet here to celebrate the victory, and there will be lots of delicious things, and she will secretly steal a little and eat it together. Hess asks for forgiveness and says that there are relatives downstairs who are just her age, and the girl says that she is on the contrary, glad. And at that time, she thought about how uneasy she was because she had been chasing her sister the last time, and she was very relieved that everything ended well. The maid tells Drazy that she apparently likes Her Highness very much. She agrees with her and says that there is no such wonderful person as their princess anywhere in the world. The maid says that she is not at all scary as they say about her, but on the contrary, she is very kind, and therefore she even lost count of how many times she treated her to something tasty, and does not understand where these strange rumors about her came from. Hearing this, Hess says that she understood why the mistress is so kind, and then says that she is calm for her and strokes her hair. The maid says that since she became Her Highness's personal maid, everyone has been very worried. The girl claims that everything is fine with her, and this is the pure truth, and the maid says that she is glad to hear this, and if there are any difficulties, then she should definitely tell her, because she will help her with everything she can. Drazy asks, Her Highness, when they will begin preparations for the banquet hearing. This the lady is surprised, and asks what she is talking about and what preparations. The maid reports that everyone has been actively busy with her since the morning, and is very noisy, and then reminds them that they need to prepare a ball gown, and since this banquet is being held in Her Highness's palace, she must look dazzling. Drazy asks if she can help her choose a dress, and the princess says that she is asking her to help with this matter. The main character thought that this moment had finally arrived, and the maid asked Her Highness what they usually do at a banquet. Rhea thought that it was not surprising that she was in the imperial palace, so she expected something like a ball. But as luck would have it, the first congratulatory banquet in honor of the victory of the Iklot was decided to be held in the princess's palace. Nadrika reports that usually at such a banquet, depending on the degree of contribution to the victory, an order title and lands are awarded. After that, the guests dance with their escorts, get to know people, and have small talk. And this is what he knows is true. The young lady understands that there is another problem. She doesn't know anyone there, and doesn't even understand what to do with the dance, because she doesn't understand why such an important event is being held in the princess's palace. The girl thought that it would be better to spend it in the main palace, as is usually done. The guy asks Her Highness if she is worried about the upcoming banquet. She replies that nothing is wrong. It's just that she is already tired of the thought of having to smile all day. Nadrika says that there is no need to smile, because she believes that no one will dare to utter a word of reproach to Her Highness. She asks the guy if he would mind being her escort. Hearing this, the young man was surprised, and the lady asked what was wrong, and she reminded him that he had said that people come to the banquet in pairs, and asked if that was true. Raya suggests that maybe he is embarrassed, because he does not want to go with her. The guy claims that he cannot help but want to, and the lady says that then everything is decided. The princess asks Drazy if she will help prepare, and Nadrika too, and the maid says that she will definitely help and suggests relying on her, since she will try to do everything in the best possible way. Nadrika asks the lady if his presence will cause any inconvenience. The princess reminds him that he is going there as her escort, and therefore he has nothing to worry about. He says, as he said, who would dare to say a word of reproach to her? The maid turns to Her Highness and says that perhaps she will leave the two of them alone and wishes to have a good time. Hess informs the princess that the banquet will begin soon. The mistress tells Drazy that she helped her a lot, and therefore is pleased with her work, and as a reward, she can eat whatever she wants, and she has already given orders in the kitchen. The maid looked at them with delight and said that the two of them look perfect together. Rhea says that then she is going. The lady turns to Nadrika and says that during the entire preparation, he did not say a word, and then asks what is bothering him. He says that it will be the first time he will be at such a banquet, and therefore he is a little nervous. The main character thought that if she had known that this would be their first social outing together, she would have chosen a better place and time. The guy asks Her Highness if she is worried, because there will be many guests at the banquet, and he thought that this could cause problems, because her memory has not yet been restored. The princess says that it's okay, because she thinks she can handle it, and then says that they should hurry because they might be late. The young man thinks that there is nothing to worry about since the main characters are never late, and they always arrive on time. The emperor says that the brave warriors have won another victory in a difficult battle in the name of their great empire, and therefore he places great hopes on them and invites them to make great efforts to defend their homeland so that its pride and glory will increase. The knights kneel and claim that everything will be done because they are ready to give their lives for their homeland and serve the king. The main character thought that she never ceases to be surprised because sometimes he seems immature, but still being an emperor is in his blood. She understands that this banquet is in honor of the victory in the war, but does not know where their heroes are. Iklot, who was the main hero of the celebration, and realized that he is not visible. Nadrika turns to the princess and says that his premonition tells him that this banquet will not be so peaceful. The lady says that a little more, and she would have been in big trouble because she realized that the problems had already occurred at the beginning of the banquet. But thanks to him, she avoided terrible troubles. The young lady understands that if she had not recognized the empress, everyone would have thought that she had gone completely crazy or was asking for a scandal. The young man explains that this is the only thing he could do in this situation, and now he wonders if it was in vain that he intervened, since he thinks that it was impudent on his part. Suddenly, the gentleman comes up to the princess and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. And at that moment, she smelled alcohol and thought that he didn't understand where he was, and she wondered how he could get drunk to such a state. The girl does not understand why he seems familiar to her, and judging by the reaction of those around him, who did not block his way at all, they know what kind of relationship he had with the princess. The princess tells him to let her go, and the man asks why, and then says that he noticed that she was without an escort and therefore decided to do her a favor. Hearing this, the main character thought that he doesn't consider Nadrik a person, and then says that now she doesn't want to raise unnecessary noise and suggests that he disappear while she asks nicely. The man says that she is again, and then asks that he does not know that she is like this only in words, and then suggests that they go away for a while together. Hearing this, Nadrika decided to deal with this impudent man and hit him and then put him on the floor. The gentleman screaming says that he has gone crazy from his place, does not know. At this time, the knights ran up and took the drunk man away, and the lady asked the young man if everything was okay with him. The gentleman screams and says that some stepson of the scum from the lower class dared to touch him, and then says that he is a corpse and asks if he understood. Her Highness turns to the knights and orders them to let this gentleman go. Hearing this, the drunk man screams and says to let him go. Idiots because they were told about this, and then asks how some ordinary knights from the common people will take him away and calls them impudent bastards. The princess grabs a drunk man by the neck and says that he has no upbringing at all. He asks in surprise what she is doing, and the lady suggests that he try for the first time in his life and think about it. The lady says that he shook his hips a little in front of her and asks if he imagines that she belongs to him, and then claims that he should be discerning who is worth touching and who is not, and then orders him to be taken away. Nadrika turns to Her Highness and asks if everything is okay with her, and she in response asks what could happen to her. The guy says he's very sorry because he made a lot of noise and put her in an awkward position. She asks what's wrong with that. She's a princess. Rhea suggests the guy to go get some fresh air because the air in this building is very heavy. The main character thought that that impudent boor had ruined the whole celebration, and now she had no desire to attend the ball because she had barely restrained herself from beating him up right there. But she still believed that he had gotten what he deserved, and she did not regret it. Nadrika turns to Her Highness and asks for forgiveness, and she surprised asks what he is apologizing for. The guy says that not only did he not help her, but he also attracted unnecessary attention. Raya objects and says that everything is wrong and there is no need to say that, and then she comes closer to the guy and hugs him and says that he helped her a lot. The young man thinks that he couldn't do anything properly and it depresses him, but the lady claims that she doesn't think so. The guy says that this is not enough for him because he also wants to protect Her Highness and wants to become a more significant person for her. Nadrika claims that he wants to protect her as much as she protects him. The girl agrees with him and says that she will do everything to make him become such a person. The guy turns to Her Highness and claims that she knows nothing, and the lady asks in surprise what he means. He says that he'd better go get some drinks and asks if she'll drink red wine. The main character thought that her appearance here was sudden, like a bolt from the blue, but gradually she got used to life in this world and to the people who surround her, and to the fact that they serve her. The girl reflects on the fact that she is fully adapted to the current circumstances, and so far she is able to cope, but she wonders what the future holds for her. Rhea knows that to understand this, she needs Uriel, but since they are enemies with her, she has nothing to do. And if she had at least a small hint, suddenly, the princess saw that a game window had just flashed before her eyes. But she assumes that maybe she just imagined it, and she fell from the balcony because of it. But she understands that this is the second floor, and she will not die. Edson grabbed the lady, and thanks to him, she didn't get hurt. The lady says that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and she didn't expect to meet him here. And at that moment, she felt awkward and apologizes. The man reminds her that she apologizes again, and he says that he will probably go. The princess says that it must have been unpleasant for him to help her, but thank her for it. The gentleman grabs the lady by the hand and asks her to wait, then says that he wants to ask something. The girl doesn't understand why he's suddenly showing her such attention, and he's interested in why she's helping him. The princess reminds him that she told him that she was no longer interested in him, and the man claims that it would be easier for her to get rid of him. But that day, she said that she was sorry, and then asks why the princess he knows does not know pity. Rhea realized that he was not here to have fun at the ball, because he wanted to see and interrogate Hers. Eldria asks if he knows her that well, and the man says that he has only seen the most vile side of her nature, and therefore asks to answer why she helps him. At this time, the main character thought that she would not be able to get out of it like last time, and then asks what difference it makes to him, and suggests that it would be better to forget about everything. The girl says that if they don't run into each other again, then it can be considered that everything is over. Edson asks if she knows this pain when he wakes up in the morning, and when he falls asleep, when he laughs or is sad, and even when he is in the arms of another woman, and wherever he goes, and whatever he does, every moment she is in his thoughts. Nadrika saw the princess he wanted to approach her, but the knight stopped him and covered his mouth with his hand. Edson asks if she is telling him to just forget. The man says that perhaps there is no point in eavesdropping any further, and then tells Her Highness that someone will be waiting for her. The lady realized that she had suddenly disappeared, and Nadrika was probably worried, and then turns to the man and says that she understood what he wanted to say, but since it was painful for him to look at her, the best thing for them would be to be at such a distance from each other, and therefore suggests not to come closer and keep a distance. Rhea asks Nadrik if he was waiting for her, and the guy asks in surprise how she ended up here. The lady explains that it happened by accident and suggests they go back. Seeger turns to Her Highness and thanks her for the performance, and at that time the main character thought that she was going to leave pretending not to notice him, and then asks what performance he is talking about. The knight wonders where he is wrong, and then says that despite the fact that she destroyed his country and destroyed his loved ones, and he is completely in her power, even his heart and mind are enslaved, and he is literally mired in her. Seeger believes that this guy is not one of those who agreed to admit this, and that it will ultimately destroy him. The lady calls his name, and he asks in surprise if she remembers his name. The princess says that she remembers him because he is offended that in the prime of his life she destroyed his dreams of making a brilliant career, and that after the humiliations he suffered, she simply threw him away like an old worn-out shoe. The lady asks if he compares himself to him when looking at Edson, and then claims that he needs to learn to hide his feelings if he wants to take revenge. The girl thought that his heart and mind were in her power, and that Seeger was wrong, because Edson's feelings for her could not be explained so simply. Nadrika tells the princess that he wants her to be happy, and therefore she should not connect herself with the past, which she cannot even remember. The girl does not understand that in the eyes of this guy, she is a princess who has lost her memory, and then says that her past is also a part of her, and therefore she is responsible for it. Raya thought that she had a strange feeling because she spent almost all her time in the palace and thought that everyone had forgotten about her. When the lady saw the hiccup, she remembered that he wanted to join the imperial family, but became another concubine. And judging by today, he was pushed aside by another concubine and also a former slave. The princess knew that the emperor was holding back the hiccup, but she didn't expect it to be that bad. And she became curious about this because he had arranged a victory ball in the princess's palace, and she had never even worried about him. Nadrika tells the lady that he must admit that he does not know how to dance, and that he has not learned the dances that are usually performed at balls, and then kisses her hand and says that he is very sorry. Eldria thought that he wanted to leave her so that she could pay attention to Eclot, and the young man promised that he would definitely dance with her next time. Aristocrats say that, as expected, he did not become a husband, and if he had been content with his status as a duke, he would not have ended up as an abandoned concubine. The main character thought that even knowing that she hears, they continue to humiliate him without embarrassment, and thinks that this is because the princess treated him disgustingly before. Lady, you understand that everything would end if he just left, but he continues to sit, maintaining an imperturbable appearance, like a devoted vassal. Eclot is the main hero of the occasion, but he was made a laughingstock because the princess treats him disdainfully, placing him below another concubine, and because at the ball in his honor, she did not even deign to look at him. The girl knows that he is not just a concubine for her, but a much more valuable person, and then she approaches him and tells him that the performer of the role of his wife has arrived, and at that time she thought that this is what she can do for him, and then she extends her hand and asks to allow one dance. At this time, the main character thought that this would be enough, and then turns to the guy and says that she doesn't dance them so well, so she wants him to help her because she needs him. Rhea saw that the gentleman smiled, and Iclot said that he was glad to try. And then they started dancing. Lady thought about how she stepped on his foot for the 6th time, and then said that she warned that she was a bad dancer. The gentleman turns to Her Highness and says that he apologizes in advance for being rude, and she says that she forgives him, and then asks what rude thing he is going to do. The princess says that she feels like her feet don't touch the floor, but he claims that this is how it was intended. On the ceiling, there is a dazzlingly shining gilded chandelier, and on all sides, there is a bright light of lights, and the princess and aristocrats dancing among them, and the main character realized that she actually ended up in another world. Eldria tells the master that she thought she only needed him, but she took his devotion for granted. But she believes that a relationship is not something that can be one-sided. The girl says that instead of endlessly seeking his support, she should become his support Iclot, thanks him for his concern, and then claims that she has no need to worry about him. The princess suggests calling her at any time if he has any difficulties, because she will come to him. Rhea reflects on how she kept thinking about how she could sneak out of the ballroom. But who would have known that the reason would be that she had drunk too much and felt tired from it? The lady saw the Nadrik and realized that he had been waiting for her all this time. The guy asks how the ball went, and she replies that she trampled someone's feet and thinks that they must be pretty swollen. The girl thanks the young man for giving her the opportunity to talk to Eclot. He says that she was worried about him, and that is why he made such a decision. Rovia screams and turns to Her Highness and asks why she didn't come to him, and then asks if she was with him at the ball, and then reminds him that he told her not to trust him. The man says that he was waiting for her and waiting for her to come, and thought that she would want to ask him at least before meeting him again, and before laughing carefree with him in front of everyone. The gentleman realizes that she never showed up, and then asks if he is even allowed to do this. Rhea says that she trusts Eclot. Hearing this, the man is surprised, and asks if he is worthy of her trust, and then claims that he wanted to improve, and tried as best he could, but all his efforts were meaningless for her. The princess objects and says that they are not meaningless, and Rovia offers to prove it to him and go with him right now. The girl asks Nadrika if he can wait a little, and then leaves with the gentleman. The guy says that he will wait in her room. The main character looked in surprise and thought that there really was a lake here, and that this was the very lake with which the memories of the former princess were associated. Rovia says that they first met here, and the lady asks if he is proposing to arrange an evening of reminiscences. The man reminds her that she promised to prove that his efforts were not in vain. The lady reflects on the fact that every time he so ardently expresses his feelings, she feels awkward responding to him affectionately because his feelings are addressed not to her, but to a real princess. The main character claims that this does not mean that she loves him, and he says that it is clear to him because he expected her to say so, and then takes her hand and asks if she remembers what she told him here. Rovia reports that that night she said he was too jealous, and she liked it, and then he tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. The young lady thought that this atmosphere was enchanting her, and the man at that time was stroking her and was even going to kiss her. Rhea takes his hand, and he asks if he can even kiss her, and wonders if she finds him so disgusting. The princess says that he didn't bring her here for this, and the man says that there was another person with her that evening, but of the two, she chose him, and he talks about Audrey and asks if she remembers him. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what he is talking about, and she became interested in who stood between her and Rovia, and therefore assumes that the princess had another concubines. The gentleman says that she chose him but kissed another, and he was still wondering why, and then asks if she wanted to see his despair, and asks her to answer, because he wants to hear it from her. Rovia suggests saying that she chose him because she likes him more than he does. At this time, the young lady thought that the princess whom Rovia knows is no longer an existing person, and she does not know what to do and thinks that maybe she should apologize by saying that she does not remember, but she assumes that it will be better if he finally stops depending on the princess, and he must be waiting for this answer. Rhea says that this is true because she liked him more than, and at that time, she thought that she sincerely wants him to stop tormenting himself with these doubts. The girl became interested in why he was not saying anything and thought that this was some kind of strange silence, and at that time she wanted to touch him, but he suddenly grabbed her hand. Rovia says that Audrey viewed Cecilia. This is the name of the previous emperor who died 12 years ago, and she could not possibly confuse this name, and she was never here with him. The man asks who she is and tells her to answer immediately. She screams and says not to touch her, and at that moment, I thought that she was caught. The main character understands that she knew little about this world and did not allow herself to relax for a minute. However, besides the Nadrika Rovia is the person who is closest to her, and sooner or later, he had to guess and assumes that this could not have happened so soon, and then reports that she lost her memory. The gentleman thinks that there is no point in saying that she lost her memory because she is a different person. Hearing this, the girl thought that he was firmly convinced of this. Rovia asks if he scared her, and Rhea agrees with him and says that he is right, and then says that she is not a princess. At this time, the man remembered that when he first met her in the library, he was enchanted and soon realized that he was irresistibly drawn to her. After Rovia began courting and gained her attention, her acquaintances cast sideways glances at him, but he was still glad to see her any time. When the guy made a bouquet of flowers, he came to the lady, but the maid did not let him go because the princess was busy. The guy was sure that he would go to her today, and when he entered, he saw the lady with other guys, and so he became her concubine, or rather a nameless toy, with which she played and forgot. The man was so angry that he was ready to take revenge. At this time, the main character asks what he will do and whether he will tell everyone. He says that he did not even think about it. The girl asks why he then forced her to reveal herself, and what does he get out of it, since she believes that he wanted to lie to get the truth out of her and then blackmail her. The guy turns to her highness and comes closer to her, and the lady screams and tells him not to come near her, and then takes a step back and suddenly falls out of the boat. The young lady thought about how amazing it was, how quiet it was underwater, and how alone she was in the whole world, and she wondered if she really existed, or if she had always been a princess. But because of a system failure, other people's memories had gotten into her head. The girl reflects on the fact that she is simply a system error, and perhaps her destiny is to be damaged or erased from this world. But even so, she wants to live. And at this time, Rovia, without thinking twice, saves the main characters. After some time, he turns to the princess and tells her that he did not believe himself, that he fell in love with her again, like a naive fool. But he was wrong because he did not fall in love with the princess. Rhea realized that this was a lie and he was trying to deceive her again, and then asked if he fell in love with her, because first the princess, then Uriel, and now her. The young lady thinks that she has too many reasons not to believe him, but the guy claims that he is not lying, because he guessed that the princess and he are different people, and therefore it does not frighten or repel him. Eldria wonders why she and whether it is so necessary to love someone, because it does not matter who it will be. The man objects and says that this is completely different, because only she was able to awaken such strong feelings in him, and then asks what it is, if not love. The girl asks if he is sure that she is not another one of his temporary insanities, and the guy claims that he wanted it to be that way, but everything is not so simple. The lady wonders what he wants from her, and whether he demands to accept his feelings. She claims that blackmail will not work, because any word he says against her will make him worse, and then asks who will be believed more. Rhea suggests that he be careful, and that the fact that she doesn't kill people doesn't mean that she's not capable of it. Rovia claims that she is too kind, and the lady asks what he means by that. The man says that his story with the order was a fabrication, but she truly felt sorry for him and wanted to console him, and asked what he knew about her. The young man claims that she has a kind heart, and the princess he knew was never merciful. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had been waiting for these words for a long time, because she had been so afraid, had put so much effort into changing the princess's reputation, and now she had been called kind. The gentleman asks to be allowed to stay with her, because she must not believe him, because she understands that his deception could have confused her, and then asks to believe that he is on her side, and also to give him a chance, because he will prove it to her. The princess says that she can't, but the guy claims that he will still try to convince her, and achieve that she will feel sorry for him herself. The man says that until then, he will not demand anything else, and will not touch her without permission, and therefore asks to let him hug her now. At this time, the girl became interested in whether Rovia had been thinking about this conversation for a long time, and then asks if he is afraid of her. And the young man claims that she is charming and he is not afraid of her. The lady remembered that, as he had said, she was not a real princess, and she hid the whole truth from Nadrik, who was devoted to the princess and sought solace in his arms. Rhea reflects on how she felt guilty about Edson's mental trauma, but continued to pretend to be the ruthless Eldria in front of him. The princess was bathed in the care and attention of the noble Eclat, as if she had every right to it, but she understood that she was a fake Eldria. The main character understands that since she came to this place for the first time, she was able to be with herself. Nadrika looked at the lady and thought that she had returned completely soaking wet, and the lady was wondering if he was sleeping. The guy replies that he is not sleeping, and she says that there is something that she must tell him, and at that time, I thought that he is the first person who deserves to know the truth. And she must do it right now, and must lay it all out even if it hurts him. But she does not want to deceive him any longer. The girl doesn't understand where to start and how to explain it to him. The young man offers the lady to look at him, and then says that, if it's hard for her, she doesn't have to talk. The princess tells him that she lied to him, because she didn't lose any memories. She's just a different person, and she's not the princess he remembers. Nadrika says that he knows hearing this. The main character asks in surprise if he knows this for sure, and at that time, she thought about what is more important to her, how long ago he found out about this. The young man says that at that moment, he understood everything, because on the day of their first meeting, she took him by the hands, and the princess would never have done that. Rhea heard this and asked why he didn't tell her, and since he knew this from the very beginning, why did he help her? Nadrika explains that he thought he could catch his breath a little, that he had gotten out of hell for a while, but at some point he began to pray that it would last forever. The guy says that he was afraid every time she fell asleep, and every morning he wondered if that other princess had returned, and he was tormented by doubts and a superstitious fear that if he spoke the truth out loud, she would disappear, dissolving into an unattainable distance. The young man asks her why he helped her, and then kisses her hand, and says that she already knows the answer. And by the way, he noticed that Rovia also guesses about her. The lady understands that he is observant, and the guy says that she has sunk into his heart, not as a princess, but as a Rovia, who has been tirelessly watching her all the time, and believes that he is a smart person who has revealed the truth, and he has no intention of harming her. Nadrika asks if she is considering accepting him or not, and then suggests that she should accept him. She is surprised and asks why he is advising her this, and whether it is because she is a real princess. The young man claims that this is not so, and the lady asks if she is a burden to him. He says that he is afraid, because she is in danger, but he is weak and cannot protect her. The guy says that it is painful for him to look at her and realize that he is powerless to help her, and then he hugs her and starts crying. and then he suggests that she not hesitate and accept him, because this gentleman will become her ally. Nadrika asks the lady to take care of herself for his sake, because she cannot lose her, because for him she is the most important woman in the world, and he values her very much. Uriel came to the gentleman, and he asks how she is living, and then hugs her. The girl answers that it is bearable, and then asks how that woman is doing. The man wonders why she constantly asks about her, and she says that she has no right to ask now, since thanks to her work, she lives in this wretched and dirty shack. Uriel believes that it is her fault that her life went to waste, and he never even stood up for her and would have finally done something if he truly loved her. The girl asks if he swallowed his tongue, and maybe he is indifferent to her, and also suggests that he cannot answer her because he has no words. The gentleman claims that she has always been dear to him as she is now, and the girl screaming suggests that he take a closer look at her dire situation. Uriel says that an ordinary servant who was underfoot was kicked out of the palace, but for him, as a former member of the royal family, this is a mere trifle. Edson thinks she knows he doesn't think so, and she wonders if she should be grateful to him. The man claims that she was banished because of her fault, and the lady objects and says that she did nothing special, and he speaks as if he were a saint. And then she says that all people make mistakes, only some get away with it and live happily ever after, while others can only whine about their unfortunate situation, that now she is one of those others, and she is not happy with this, and therefore will not leave it like this. At this time, the guy thought about whether it was true that the woman he fell in love with was standing in front of him, and at the moment when he was so angry and confused that he could not trust anyone, she became the only one who did not let him perish in the abyss of despair from the shame and hatred that consumed him. Uriel claims that she will not forgive her, and Edson suggests that it would be better to forget about the princess because they could go somewhere and live far from the palace. The gentleman announces that he has officially become a knight and will now receive a salary, and this money will be enough for a comfortable life, even for an aristocrat on the outskirts. Edson understands that this is enough for him, and at that time he thought about the princess who told him to forget and keep his distance not too far and not too close, but just enough for each of them to go their own way. Uriel asks if he's telling her to forgive this woman, and also wonders if he's laughing in her face. And the guy reminds her that he said it's better to forget, and then asks what came over her. At this time, the girl thought that he was acting as if he had already forgiven the princess, and considered him a noble fool, even in his hatred, and this made her sick. Uriel understands that he was like that from their first meeting, but he disdained to be trampled by the princess for the sake of his people, and easily agreed to part with his life just to protect her. The girl thought that since he was such a faithful knight who dedicated himself to her, then let him do as she tells him. Edson says that he understands how she feels, and then tells her that he only has her, and therefore suggests leaving everything as is, and leaving. Hearing this, the lady does not understand who wants this, and she wonders since when they do only what he wants. Uriel asks if he has forgotten her true nature, and then reminds him that she likes to play and manipulate people, and then asks who can guarantee that she won't do the same to them. The girl screams and asks if he still doesn't understand, and then says that if she just says a word that she changed her mind, it's the end for them, and asks if he really hopes that the princess will leave them alive. At this time, the guy thought that this was possible, but at some point, Uriel, who seemed to never change, and the princess changed, and he himself was no longer the same as before. The girl says that if he doesn't believe her, then let him kill this woman for her sake, because then she can run away with him and forget everything. The system notification says that she has made a request that is currently higher than what is allowed by Edson Velodu, and if he does not withdraw the request, his interest level will be permanently reduced by 80%. If she withdraws the request, there will be no changes, and the reduced level of interest will not be replenished again. And the answer options are a maintain the level of interest and endure the penalty. Uriel says that she is not asking to do it right now, but he must be ready for it. Edson thinks that he has spoiled her, and she hugs him and offers to take responsibility for it. And at that time, she thought that she doesn't know why and how she got here, but she has to win. Nadrika woke up and screamed in surprise, asking for forgiveness, because he had slept longer than Her Highness. The princess said that she herself did not want to wake him, because he had cried a lot yesterday and was therefore very tired. The lady reports that she has a meeting this morning regarding territorial negotiations, and she has studied so much but is still not sure whether she will be able to cope with such responsibility. Nadrika claims that she will succeed, and if she is Rhea, then she should succeed. The lady thanked the guy and then kissed him and said that she will quickly sort it all out and come back. The main character thought that she had said so, but when she barely opened her eyes in the morning, she thought that it was just fatigue that had accumulated, and this sharp headache and cotton wool reminded her of something very familiar from her past life. The emperor proposes to start the meeting, and the topic of their discussion will be territorial negotiations related to the kingdom of Borne. And at this time, the girl thought that she had caught a cold. In fact, this meeting is an official meeting in which she takes the position of a responsible person and will try to take advantage of the situation and achieve what she has planned. Raya says that before discussing the main topic of the meeting, she would like to clarify one issue because she is concerned that Sir Faces was not among those who were awarded awards for military merit, and then asks what is the reason for such injustice. The princess realizes that this is the answer to why the hiccup was not at the ball in honor of the victory celebration. The minister asks if he is not Her Highness's concubine, since he believes that concubines cannot be granted titles or lands, since this is a long-established tradition and not without reason. The main character thought about the fact that, as far as she remembers, he is the chancellor of this country, and then asks what his reasons are. The Marquis believes that the country cannot be governed well if power is in the hands of a concubine, and then turns to Her Highness and asks if she wishes to reward Sir Faces. The gentleman suggests trying to choose something from the luxury items permitted to concubines. At this time, the princess thought that he was treating her like a small child, demanding something irrational, and then claimed that she was talking about the reward that was due to a person who made a huge contribution to the victory of their country. The lady says that he will consider her words as another whim in love games and asks if this is so. After her words, there was silence in the hall. The minister says that only His Majesty the Emperor can make decisions about granting him lands or a title. His Majesty informs that today he is here as an observer and therefore will not express his opinion on this issue and leaves its decision to the discretion of the princess. The lady thanked His Majesty and then said that since she understood correctly, she was interested in whether he denied the importance of Sir Face's military merits, and at that time thought that he would not dare to say so. Eclot, at the head of a large army, broke through to the very heart of the enemy country and occupied a strategically advantageous height, thereby forcing the enemy to sign a capitulation agreement. His personal participation in battles repeatedly raised the fighting spirit of the army, which led to numerous victories. The gentleman turns to Her Highness and asks why they don't listen to his personal opinion on the matter, and then invites the Iclot to come forward. At this time, the main character realized that he had recently humiliated Eclot by stating that he had no right to interfere in state affairs, and now he was asking his opinion. The minister asks if he wants to receive lands and a title for military merits, contrary to their traditions. At this time, the princess thought that he was not short of meanness because he asked this question on purpose, knowing the answer in advance. The young lady understands that Eclot will never demand a reward for his achievements, especially publicly, and therefore believes that he has no choice but to refuse. The girl reflects on the fact that she thought that he would defend the correctness of following traditions, because his silence means that he will not object to her. The princess says that she would also like to ask something, and then asks if those present here are familiar with this book, because it describes everything that happened in this war, all the pain and cruelty of each of its battles. Eldria says that the valor of Sir Fias, who achieved victory for their country with great effort, and by forgetting their heroes, they risk losing the loyalty of their subjects. The main character asks if they will continue to claim that they do not recognize his merits. The gentleman says that this protocol diary from the document submitted for the meeting was not provided. The princess reports that after reading this book, she realized how enormous Sir Face's influence on the outcome of this war was, and then she asks if his subordinates will confirm this. The knights agree with Her Majesty and claim that she spoke the pure truth. The lady screaming says that this is why she demands that the merits of Sir Faces be recognized, and therefore he should be rewarded according to his exploits. The princess turns to the gentleman and asks if they continue to insist that they are right, even in such a situation. The gentleman says that we will propose that he does not deny his merits, but awarding him the prize will still cause difficulties. At this time, a woman enters the hall and turning to the Duke asks if he is too loud, because she heard that he has already acquired a 10th concubine and that he has a luxurious estate and vast lands. The lady with black hair is informed that there are so many rumors about his wealth that one can only guess how soon he will turn the sea into a personal pond, and then asks for what merits he has so much. Icarus asks why she is here, and the woman approaches the princess and says that she is pleased to meet her highness, and says that she is Sir Face's deputy quarantine faces. The Duke screaming asks what she allows herself to do, and the princess says that, judging by his words, he acknowledges all the exploits of Sir Faces, and then asks if his status bothers her, and if she understands correctly. Raya says that, in other words, if he were not her concubine, he could have received real recognition and a reward worthy of the Duchess of War, and then asks if she is right. Duke Og says that it is so, and the princess says that, if only this is an obstacle right here and now in the presence of His Majesty, she declares that from this moment on, Iclot Faceus has been officially stripped of his status as a concubine. The man tells the gentleman that it seems he has completely lost his head because of this woman named Uriel, and the only suspicious action is that she was visited by a maid with whom she apparently communicated while working in the palace. The master asks if he can find out the name of this maid, and the servant says that it would be easier to find out if this maid appeared, but for now he will try to find out what they say. Rovia orders that everything be reported to him without exception, and that not a single detail be missed. Edson saw the gentleman. He asked what he was doing here, and he replied that he came to ask why he didn't run away. Rovia asks if he is interrupting in a hated country of his own free will, and then he says that he would like to hear at least one convincing reason. The gentleman asks if he has any hidden intentions, and the prince claims that he has no right to question him. Rovia asks if Uriel is keeping him here. Edson asks why he is bothered by this, because he thinks it is none of his business, and he is sticking his nose into other people's business. The guy with blonde hair asks if he still hasn't realized that she's up to something, and also wonders if he really doesn't notice, or is just pretending. Edson tells him to shut up, and the young man asks if he really still trusts her. The gentleman claims that either Uriel or why he didn't leave her like he did. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise if he left her, and then explains that, first of all, she was never his. Rovia says that if he loves her, then let him leave her at any cost, and not commit any rash acts himself if her highness is not indifferent to him. At this time, the main character thought that finally this meeting was over, and she realized that she tried not to show it, but compared to the morning, her condition had sharply worsened. However, the girl understands that it is good that she managed to convince them, and now the title of Iclot has been restored, and the issue of territories has been resolved. However, she did not expect that they openly opposed her, and therefore it would have been difficult without this book. The main character remembers how the maid tells her, the princess, that one night has been causing a stir since the morning, and he says that he must definitely see her. The man fell to his knees before the lady and said that his name was Dasis, and that during the military actions he acted as a protocol clerk for Mr. Iclot and for part of their army. The knight turns to her highness and claims that she must see this book. Eldria knows that at the very last moment she had to read this protocol and think about what to do next, but she would like to get to the room as quickly as possible before anyone noticed her painful condition. At this time, Iclot asks the princess why she did this, and at this time the girl thought that he was not visible, so she thought that he had left earlier with the Marquis's face. The gentleman wonders if she has decided to leave him. The lady explains that he misunderstood her because she has never thought of leaving him before now or in the future, and then asks if he believes her. Iclot assures that he believes, and the lady asks why he thought so. He replies that the lady deprived him of the status of hostage, and Rhea explains that she wanted to thank him in this way for his oath and loyalty to her. The princess asks if he is not happy because he believes that now he will be able to restore his position in society and get everything he deserves. Rhea says that Sir Defet will probably be happy because she heard that he was his student, and perhaps thanks to this, he will even stop hating her, and then says that she didn't mean to say that, and thought that they understand how to explain all this to him. And the main character understands that. Because of the temperature, she can't understand anything. The lady explains that, frankly, she doesn't understand what he didn't like about her decision, because it just seemed to her that their relationship was too contradictory, and she wanted to start all over again and believed that it would be better for him, and then asks if she was wrong. Eclat objects and says that she was not mistaken, and then says that it was his choice.